Chapter 949. Shattered Star Ring, Soul Cluster Border, Cross Star Cluster Stargate. The Klent Kingdom's territory was connected to the Purple Crystal Civilization's Colton Star Cluster. They were separated by a desolate universe belt and connected by stargates. After the end of the Secret War, the state of emergency between the two sides was lifted, and the civilian stargates were reopened, allowing the people of the two star clusters to return to normal. At this moment, at the observation post stationed at the Stargate station, the sentinel on duty today was slacking off openly. He turned a blind eye to the fleet of spaceships that had passed through the Stargate. He held a communicator in his hand and stared at it without blinking. He was a complete case of someone with severe head-bowing syndrome. Ever since the Secret War ended, Klent and Purple Crystal had both rested. Furthermore, the Black Star Corps had joined the Red Empire, so the two civilizations did not have many chances to have a conflict. Nothing happened for many years, so the Sentinels gradually relaxed. This could not be blamed on their lack of professionalism. The main reason was that most of the spaceships were inspected by artificial intelligence, and there were very few opportunities for manual inspection. Thus, most of the time, they were either in a daze or slacking off. The virtual singer is so awesome. On the screen of the communicator was the virtual image of a Klent beauty. She was wearing thin clothes and was dancing nimbly. Her melodious voice was like the sound of a clear spring. The sentinel on duty had an infatuated look on his face. He shook his legs crazily, swiped the screen with his finger, and sent out a few virtual gifts bought with real money. This software was an entertainment software that was popular in the entire universe. It could customize virtual images according to the aesthetics of different races. Other than the appearance, it could also choose the personality of the artificial intelligence. Could be tried out in any style. After creating a virtual image, it could interact with the other party in all kinds of ways. For example, it could let her sing songs arranged by the artificial intelligence or play Wayne cards with her online. It could even be tipped. It could basically be treated as a real person. After becoming a member, it could let the other party show a 3D projection that was the size of a real person. If there were further requirements, it could contact the official website to buy a virtual image service. This way, it could be touched by the 3D projection. There were also youth and adult versions. If one did not want to create a virtual image, they could also find the image templates shared by other users in the database. They could choose any race, any appearance, and any taste. In this era, the degree of interstellar integration was very high, but there were still many autistic people. Compared to making real friends, they preferred to create perfect virtual friends, brothers, children, partners, and so on. In the interstellar era, the otaku market was extremely prosperous. It was really easy to earn money from otakus. It was worth mentioning that this software was developed by one of the sub-brands of the Limitless Financial Group. The annual income was extremely frightening, and the money earned in 1 year was theoretically enough to buy the entire Bloodshed land. The sentinel on duty was admiring his dream lover with infatuation. Suddenly, an AI voice that made one's heart turn cold rang out. Detected a special marked transit. Proceeding to manual inspection. The sentry on duty, who was shaking his leg, was startled by the sudden sound. He almost threw the communicator away. After calming himself down, he put down the communicator impatiently. With resentment for being disturbed, he turned around to operate the inspection system. Who is it? The Black Star Corps. Instantly, the sentry on duty woke up from his stupor. It was the Black Star Corps that had submitted the transit inspection. In the database of civilian stargates like this, there were some special marked people, such as galactic wanted criminals. Due to the grudges of the Secret War and Black Star's increasing influence, Klent added the Black Star Corps to the list of marked people. Anyone with the identity of the Black Star Corps who came to Klent's territory had to be reported by the people in the Stargate station. The sentry on duty knew that he did not have the authority to inspect, so he immediately informed his team leader. The team leader then informed the person in charge of the Stargate station and sent the information up the chain of command to the upper echelons of the civilization. Not long after, the upper echelons gave the order to allow the Black Star Corps to cross the border. Very soon, a small fleet with the insignia of the Black Star Army sailed out of the Stargate, turning into a stream of light and leaving a trail of flames behind, which was reflected in the eyes of the sentries on duty. Although the Black Star Corps was allowed to cross the border, the upper echelons of Klent were still in shock. Normally, the Black Star Corps did not interact with them at all and would not come to the Sol Cluster. They did not know what they were going to do with this sudden visit. They had to send someone to follow them and monitor them. To Klent's surprise, the news of the Black Star Corps suddenly visiting their territory spread like wildfire and was quickly made known to many organizations and galactic residents in the Shattered Star Ring. Klent knew very well the reason behind this. Someone must have been spreading the news behind the scenes. After thinking about it, only the Black Star Corps would do this. Klent did not understand the actions of the Black Star Corps at first, but when they realized that this fleet was heading toward the Bloodshed Land, the upper echelons of Klent finally understood. That's right, it must be the recent actions of the Bloodshed Land that attracted the Black Star Corps. Klent did not know the truth behind the alliance between the Bloodshed Land and the Limitless Financial Group. They only knew that the Bloodshed Land's strength had increased tremendously because of this and was taking away the benefits of the Black Star Corps. Heber was their ally, and Klent wanted to use some means to protect him. However, by the time they realized, it was already too late. The news of the Black Star Corps' target being the Bloodshed Land had already spread. Now, more than half of the Shattered Star Ring knew that the Black Star Corps was going to do something to Heber. Furthermore, the Black Star Corps had even publicized the itinerary of this fleet, not hiding their purpose at all. Every day, the distance between them and the Bloodshed Land headquarters was getting shorter and shorter. With such a high-profile campaign, many galactic residents in the Shattered Star Ring were waiting for a good show to happen and looked forward to the meeting between the two parties. The topic of public opinion had already become a hot topic, and Klent could not do anything even if they wanted to. After more than half a month of waiting, the Black Star Fleet finally arrived at the Bloodshed Land headquarters. In the sky above the Bloodshed Land headquarters, fleets filled the sky like a cloud of steel. All the Vanguard officials had been summoned back, leading different fleets and waiting for the arrival of the fleet. Heber stood on the ground of the planet with his hands behind his back. He looked up at the dark sky with an expressionless face, not saying a word. According to the itinerary announced by the Black Star Corps, today was the day that this fleet would arrive. When he realized that the Black Star Corps was coming toward him, Heber knew that his bad premonition had come true. However, this was his territory, and he would not and could not run. Not only that, Heber had even made the moving headquarters stop on the spot and wait for the arrival of the Black Star Fleet, purposely showing that he was not panicking at all. This was to prevent people from thinking that he was afraid of Black Star and manipulating the headquarters to run away and delay the journey. In fact, Heber did not understand the intention of Black Star's actions. He did not think that Black Star would dare to start an internal conflict between the dynasty's allies. Is this guy trying to use this method to intimidate me? You're clearly waiting in the dynasty's territory and not coming here personally. You want me to be afraid of you? Humph, what wishful thinking. Therefore, Heber was very calm and only wanted to see what Han Shao was up to. Although he felt that Han Shao would not do it for real, he still had to put on a show. Therefore, he made the fleet at the headquarters enter a state of alert. As for whether or not the fleet that was about to arrive would suddenly make a detour to play tricks on him, Heber did not even consider this possibility. If he really did that, it would be embarrassing for the Black Star Corps. After waiting for a while, light spots suddenly lit up at the end of his vision, and stopped not far away from planet Heber in the blink of an eye, revealing the appearance of the Black Star Fleet and confronting the Bloodshed Land Fleet. The size of the fleets of the two sides could not be compared. Heber's fleet had more than 1,000,000 spaceships, while the Black Star Fleet only had a few dozen spaceships. It was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. On the other side, the Klent fleet had also arrived. Other than that, there were many galactic residents and media personnel who came to join in the fun. These people had followed the Black Star Corps' itinerary and had arrived early, preparing to watch the scene with force. Heber snorted, took out his communicator, opened the public communication channel, and said calmly, "Black Star Corps, I did not invite you. Black Star, I haven't invited you recently, and you didn't say that you were going to visit me in advance. So, what do you mean by coming uninvited?" Hearing this, the galactic residents who came to join in the fun became excited. They could hear the smell of gunpowder in this sentence, and waited for Black Star's response. After waiting for a while, a cold mechanical voice sounded in the public communication channel. There were no pleasantries and went straight to the point, bringing about a cold atmosphere. "Heber, do you still remember our unfinished battle?" Heber's eyes narrowed. Without waiting for him to answer, Han Zhao's mechanical body continued. "Back then, when I just became a Beyond Grade A, you asked me to fight. Because of the dynasty, that battle ended without a result. The victor between us has yet to be determined." "Humph." Heber's tone turned cold. "So, you're here to issue a challenge?" "That's right." Han Zhao said calmly. "Back then, you wanted to bully me when I just became a Beyond Grade A. Now is the time. I'm here to settle this score with you. In 20 days, I'll fight you in the Soul Cluster. You can choose the location." 20 days? Heh, can you rush back from the dynasty's territory? "Don't worry, only the 2,000,000 mech legion in this fleet and one of my lord's avatars will fight you." Han Zhao slowly said, "Don't tell me you're scared. Where's the confidence you had when you asked me to fight you? I just became a Beyond Grade A Super a few years ago, and you don't dare to fight me?" The mechanical life forms were all in the flickering world. Han Zhao did not bring any apostle weapons this time, only a lord's avatars and a batch of mechanical soldiers in the headquarters warehouse. These mechanical soldiers were all built before he advanced to level 300, so they did not receive Han Zhao's current construction bonus. Hearing this, Heber was instantly annoyed. After the battle on Planet Lighthouse, Heber knew that he was probably not Han Zhao's opponent, but the prerequisite was that Han Zhao personally appeared. However, he did not even bring an apostle weapon, only a lord's avatars and a team of mech legion, and you dare to challenge me? You're looking down on me too much. Hee hee. Heber's face was frosty and he said with a deep voice, "You don't dare to come personally, right? Are you worried that you won't be able to escape if you lose? Humph, using a group of mechanical soldiers to challenge me, even if I destroy them, you'll still be very safe, right? Think whatever you want. I've already issued the challenge. Do you dare to accept it?" Han Zhao was unmoved. Heber immediately began to plan in his mind, but he suddenly realized that Han Zhao had already blocked his escape route. Firstly, the matter had already blown up, and the title of the tyrant did not allow him to admit defeat. Secondly, when he bullied Han Zhao, who had just become a Beyond Grade A Super, Han Zhao accepted the challenge very quickly. If he hesitated and rejected the challenge now, it would mean that he was afraid of Han Zhao, and outsiders would think that he only bullied the weak and feared the strong. The deterrence of the title of the tyrant would plummet. "I see, so this is your plan," Heber was furious. Settling the grudges was just an excuse to force him into a situation where he could not refuse. In essence, it was still because of the recent competition. He had destroyed the Black Star Corps' plan to amalgamate their interests, so the other party started from the core and issued a challenge publicly, intending to use their fists to do the talking. "Black Star, your timing is really good. You've made it difficult for me to back down. I can't refuse. Heber was so angry that he laughed. All right, I'll accept your challenge. Black Star, things have been going too smoothly for you recently, and you're getting more and more arrogant. Let me give you a defeat and wake you up. If Han Zhao's main body came, Heber knew that he would not be his match. However, it was just a doppelganger leading an army, so he did not think that he would lose. How dare you look down on me like this? Do you really think that I, the tyrant, am made of mud? Very good, I'll wait for your news. Seeing that Heber had accepted, this Black Star fleet turned around and left, quickly disappearing from everyone's sight. Let's go. Heber snorted and waved his hand, ordering the fleet to land. He coldly glanced at the spectators before walking back into the palace. His tall and muscular figure also disappeared from everyone's sight. The galactic residents who had watched the entire process were excited. Many of them had seen the battle between the two of them many years ago. Now, history was repeating itself in front of them. However, this time, the roles were reversed. Haha, there's going to be a good show. The last time the dynasty stepped in, the two of them did not win. I wonder if the dynasty will still intervene this time. It can't be. They should have no reason to interfere. They did not stop the tyrant from fighting last time, so how can they stop Black Star from settling the score this time? So this is Black Star's battle of revenge. He's finally planning to take revenge. I knew it. The two of them have always been at odds. Even if they're allies, there's bound to be a battle. Countless galactic residents were discussing in the channel. At the same time, in the Bloodshed Land's headquarters, the host possessed by Sorokin frowned as he looked in the direction that the Black Star fleet had left. Black Star's move was extremely bold, and it was suspected of instigating internal strife. Sorokin had guessed that this would happen, but he did not expect Black Star to really do it. If they could really defeat the tyrant, Black Star would be able to hold his head high, and it would indeed reduce the competitiveness of the Bloodshed Land to a certain extent. However, the price would be that the tyrant's reputation would plummet. The way he saw it, the Red Empire would not allow such a situation to happen so easily. The deterrence of a beyond Grade A ally was equivalent to a bargaining chip for the dynasty. If you really succeed, my plan will become more and more difficult. Sorokin frowned and fell into deep thought. Chapter 950. As the news spread, the news of Black Star issuing a challenge to the tyrant quickly spread throughout the shattered star ring and the various star field. The grudges between the two of them were dug up by the spectators from all over the country, adding a lot of interesting gimmick to this battle and attracting a lot of attention. Conflicts between allies of advanced civilizations were not unheard of in history. Although they were all working for the same civilization, the allies were not of the same mind and were only doing it for mutual benefit. Furthermore, there were differences in the amount of resources, so there were bound to be conflicts. As long as the conflicts between allies did not cross the line and cause serious internal strife, the advanced civilizations would not intervene. Firstly, they did not intend for all of their allies to maintain a good relationship with each other. Secondly, competition brought vitality. Thirdly, there were many problems with the distribution of benefits that even the advanced civilizations would not be able to resolve. Black Star issuing a challenge to the tyrant was a boundary that the dynasty could not interfere with. This matter also reached the conference table of the dynasty's upper echelons. Central Galaxy, Planet Crimson Ring, Conference Room of the Upper Echelons. A few days ago, Black Star officially issued a challenge to the tyrant, challenging him to a battle in 20 days. The tyrant agreed, and this news has spread like wildfire. Everyone, what do you think? At the head of the table, Uranril's slender fingers tapped on the table. She looked around at the upper echelons, but no one had an opinion. Black Star did not discuss this with us. Doing this will affect the dynasty's influence in the shattered star ring. This is not a good thing, an upper echelon said solemnly. Indeed, the dynasty's external environment is worrying. To us, maintaining the stability of the star field is the most important. I feel that we should intervene in this matter, someone said. On the other side, someone had a different opinion. This person was an official from the ruler's faction. You can't say that. Black Star's actions are understandable. A few years ago, the tyrant challenged Black Star, who had just entered the beyond Grade A realm, to a battle. Black Star thus joined the dynasty and received our protection. Now that he has grown stronger, it's normal for him to want to settle the grudges from before. Seeing this, an official from the neutral faction also spoke up. That's right. Back then, we did not stop the tyrant because Black Star only joined us after accepting the challenge. A Beyond Grade A's agreement cannot be taken back so easily, so we should not stop Black Star's challenge. Only then would it be fair. That's right. Furthermore, Bloodshed Land's recent actions have affected the interests of the Black Star Corps. If we side with the tyrant, it will greatly affect Black Star's impression of the dynasty. But the tyrant's reputation, the officials present were divided into two sides. One side supported intervention, while the other supported inaction. However, the ones who spoke were the daily active figures of the various factions. They were the lackeys. Their job was to throw a brick to attract jade and indirectly convey the faction's position. The true bigwigs of the factions did not say a word at this moment. Uranril listened calmly and looked at the chief commander of the exploration army, Tarakov. Tarakov, what do you think? As soon as this was said, the entire place fell silent. Everyone knew that it was time for the bigwigs to make a decision. Only their words carried weight. Black Star, I'm very familiar with him. Tarakov smiled. I believe that he knows what he's doing. Uranrel nodded and looked at Bekarodi, one of the leaders of the hardliners. What about you? Bekarodi's face was dark. He glanced at Ludwell, who had a smile that did not seem like a smile, and slowly said, I support neutrality. Hearing this, a hint of doubt flashed past Uranril's eyes, and she was a little surprised. She knew that Bekarodi had always been in the hardline faction and did not like Black Star at all times. It was as though his wife had been slept with by Black Star. She had asked Bekarodi just now to get his opposing opinion. However, she did not expect Bekarodi to stand on Black Star's side. Supporting neutrality meant supporting Black Star. Everyone present knew that if the battle continued, the tyrant's reputation would be severely damaged, and Black Star's reputation would soar. What Heber did not know was that in the eyes of the dynasty's upper echelons, even if his opponent was just a doppelganger of Black Star, his chances of winning were less than 10%. Not long ago, the dynasty's outpost had submitted the observation report of Black Star's promotion, and this report had caused a commotion among the dynasty's upper echelons. Black Star had only entered the Beyond Grade A realm for a few years, and the battle on Planet Lighthouse and the fall of Esgod had both shown his growth. Originally, the dynasty thought that he would be quiet for a period of time, but Black Star seemed to have drunk high-energy oil and soared into the sky. He had actually grown in such a short period of time. Compared to the evolution speed of a Beyond Grade A mere few years was simply too short a time. Although they did not know what level Black Star had reached, according to the Dark Emperor's speculation, Black Star might be close to the peak of the Beyond Grade A realm, which was a few decades earlier than expected. Even the Dark Emperor was shocked, saying that he had never seen such a monster before. Therefore, in the eyes of the dynasty, the tyrant's chances of winning were pitifully low. They even suspected that Black Star had only sent a doppelganger to provoke the tyrant and make the tyrant feel that he had a chance of winning. The result of this battle was predictable. Black Star would become the dynasty's main representative in the Shattered Star Ring, and although the tyrant's organization would continue to grow, in terms of deterrence and status, he would always be suppressed by Black Star. He would never be on the same level as Black Star like before. This meant that in the eyes of outsiders, Black Star would sit at the top of the Beyond Grade as in the Shattered Star Ring. Urinril was naturally willing to see this happen, so the ruler's faction was all on Black Star's side. She had originally thought that there would definitely be someone who would insist on interfering with the battle today, but she did not expect that Bekarodi, who was the most likely to cause trouble in her heart, would actually change his position. Frowning, Urinril then looked at Ludwell. "I also support being neutral." Ludwell's expression did not change, but it was not because he was grateful to Black Star. He had always been on the side of the ruler's faction. Furthermore, he was not as radical as the hardliners, who thought that suppressing Black Star was the last resort. He was more interested in exchanging for or purchasing the evolution cube. Today is really strange. Why are both of them so easy to talk to? Urinril thought to herself. Hearing this, Bekarodi narrowed his eyes and looked at Ludwell with deep meaning. Just a few days ago, Sorokin, who he had an agreement with, had sent him a private message, expressing his hope that he would stop the battle. Bekarodi also knew the pros and cons. If he allowed Black Star's reputation to continue rising, Sorokin's plan would be even more difficult to achieve. If it was under normal circumstances, he would definitely insist on interfering. However, the situation now was different. Ludwell had talked to him more than half a month ago, and there was a deeper meaning in his word. Bekarodi could only ignore Sorokin's opinion and temporarily restrain himself. He would observe the situation. Scheming for the evolution cube was good, but self-preservation was more important. There was some silence in the conference room, and the atmosphere was strange. When the high-ranking officials of the other factions saw that these big shots had unified their opinions, no one jumped out to object, and they all agreed. Since no one has any objections, Urinril felt that this was going too smoothly. Calming herself down, she slowly said, "It's decided then. As long as Black Star does not go overboard, such as killing or crippling the tyrant, we will not interfere." Understood. Everyone nodded, each with their own thoughts. Black Star and the tyrant are fighting? In the group chat of the Red Empire Beyond Grade, as Bayoni spoke with great interest, which instantly blew up all the lurkers. "I knew that the two of them would fight one day." Milizaus snorted. "Don't say anything else. Let's start." Bayoni rubbed his palms together. "A small bet for fun. I'll bet on Black Star, 50 million anas." Ravenlouty chuckled, not embarrassed at all about selling out the tyrant. I'm very familiar with Heber, so I'm very clear about his strength." Viru rubbed his chin. "So, I'll bet on Black Star, 10 million anas." "Black Star, 200 million, Lotus Swordsman said calmly. "Oi, you're all betting on Black Star. How are we going to start?" Milizaus was dissatisfied. "Simple. You call all the Ancient Ones over, and I'll call the Radiant Federation and Arcane Church allies over. It'll only be interesting with more people." The third strongest national pillar, who was usually lurking, appeared and joined in the fun. "Great, great." Milizaus laughed. Although the Arcane Church had injured him, they had suffered more losses than him, so he did not hold any grudges against them. The Beyond Grade A circle was only so big. Although they belonged to different advanced civilizations, some of them still had personal relationships with each other. The third strongest national pillar had a good relationship with many Beyond Grade as from the other two civilizations. The allies of the three universal civilizations and the Ancient Ones basically included more than half of the Beyond Grade as in the explored universe. It would not be an exaggeration to call this a grand event. As for the battle between Black Star and the Tyrant, not only were they not worried, they even wanted to watch the show. Their status as allies did not have much restriction on them. Only the true direct descendants of the dynasty would think for the dynasty wholeheartedly. They were all Beyond Grade as, how could there be a good show if they did not fight? In a certain distant star field on a certain blood-red planet. On the blood-red planet, an endless beast horde was like a black ocean, constantly charging toward a red figure in the center. Countless broken beast corpses fell on the ground, and blue blood seeped into the soil, leaving blue patches on the red planet. These beasts were ferocious galactic creatures that could hibernate and drift in the universe. Once they landed on a planet, they would rapidly reproduce and eat everything on the planet's surface, causing disasters to fall from the sky. In the prosperous star field, these galactic creatures had already been wiped out. However, in some remote and desolate areas there were still nests. At this moment, the center of the beast horde was constantly exploding with dense crimson energy. The energy swept past, reaping lives and blasting the beasts into pieces. Hela's eyes were as cold as ice, and there was nothing in her eyes other than the beast horde. Death energy poured out like it was free, and the soul energy of the dead beasts seeped into her body and continuously strengthened her esper ability. In the sky, Ames floated in midair, looking down at Hela killing the beast horde alone, not interfering. Coming out to train was not a sightseeing trip. If Hela wanted her esper ability to grow quickly, the fastest shortcut was to slaughter a planet. However, this time, the targets were all kinds of ferocious beasts. The battle lasted for who knew how long, and when the last beast fell, Hela was already drenched in blue blood. She panted heavily and looked around. As far as her eyes could see, corpses were everywhere and the ground was dyed blue. The corpses stretched as far as the eye could see, numbering in the hundreds of millions. The blood of these creatures smelled like expired milk, extremely sour and smelly. There was a pungent smell of blood everywhere. Hela held her breath and dragged her tired body to Ames' side. Quite efficient. Ames nodded lightly. Looking down at the tragic situation on the ground, Ames clenched her hand. Rumble. The ground shook as if an earth dragon was turning over. Earth dragons broke out of the ground and rolled on the ground. It was a spectacular scene. After using her force field to flip the ground for a while, the dust gradually dissipated, and all the corpses were buried underground. It was as if the ground had been plowed. If Ames were to take action, destroying the beast horde would be a piece of cake. When you can reap the lives of hundreds of millions of creatures with a snap of your fingers, you will have reached beyond grade A. Ames retracted her jade-like hand into her black hollowed-out sleeve and said with a smile. Hela nodded silently, her face expressionless, as if the blood all over her body did not exist. By the way, I saw a piece of news just now. Ames took out her communicator, shook her head, and chuckled. Black Star has challenged the tyrant. They're going to fight in a dozen or so days, just like a few years ago. He didn't even change the 20-day agreement. He really has a bad taste. In the previous battle, Ames had faced the enemy together with Black Star, so it left a deep impression on her. Hela frowned slightly, a cold, murderous aura faintly leaking out. Do you want to go back and help? Hee, don't worry, Ames smiled faintly. The current him no longer needs my help. The organizations of the various star fields were paying attention to this matter, and under the influence of some people, more and more people's attention was attracted to the battle between the two of them. The gossipy galactic citizens interpreted all sorts of meanings from this battle. Some thought that this was Black Star's battle of revenge. Some thought that this battle would determine the number one beyond grade A of the Shattered Star Ring, and some even thought that the two of them were fighting over Ames. This was a battle between love rivals, and they imagined a love triangle of millions of words in their minds. The gambling industry also started their own operations. Originally, Black Star's chances of winning were very high, but because he did not come personally this time and only sent an avatar and 2 million mechanical troops, the gambling industry adjusted the odds of winning to 60 to 40, with the Tyrant 60% and Black Star 40%. Ordinary people had no way of understanding the actual strength of a Beyond Grade A, and in many people's eyes, although Black Star's recent battle results were impressive, the Tyrant was not weak either. The Tyrant's name had long been ingrained in the hearts of the citizens of the Shattered Star Ring. Many people felt that a Beyond Grade A who did not come personally would not be a match for another Beyond Grade A, so there were actually many people who placed their bets on the tyrant. 20 days passed in the blink of an eye. Clent Kingdom's territory, Soul Cluster Black Star Tyrant. This was originally a desolate planet with a serial number. More than 10 days ago, Heber had chosen this place as the battlefield, so Clent had directly changed the name of the planet on the star map. Perhaps Clent planned to turn this planet into a tourist attraction, but the spectators felt that this name would not be used for long. After the battle, it was hard to say whether this planet would still be around after the battle. Black Star did not mind choosing Clent's territory as the battlefield. Firstly, it showed his strong confidence, and secondly, it was because he was not afraid of losing his mechanical troops, so Clent could not do anything. Beyond Grade A mechanics were a headache in this aspect. As long as they had enough money, they could take risks without any fear, and Clent could not do anything. At this moment, countless spaceships gathered around Black Star Tyrant. With the lesson from a few years ago, all the spectators stayed far away. No one wanted to be the next lucky spectator to be randomly killed. The Bloodshed Lands fleet hovered in the surroundings, guarding the surroundings. Heber stood alone on the surface, his eyes closed as he rested. His mountain-like body stood straight, and his black cape fluttered in the wind. His aura was very powerful. Can he really win? On one of the battleships, a Vanguard official could not help but break the silence with a worried expression. "Are you doubting His Excellency Tyrant?" Rothers looked at him unkindly. "Don't you?" Rothers clenched his teeth, glared at him, and turned around. However, he did not refute. In fact, his palms were sweating as well. If the tyrant could not defeat Black Star himself, although he would be disappointed, he was mentally prepared and would accept it. However, this time, it was only Black Star's doppelganger. If His Excellency Tyrant still could not defeat him. No, that's impossible. It's only been a few years. How can Black Star be so strong? Rothers shook his head and muttered to himself. It was unknown if he was trying to convince others or himself. Jode turned around to look at the worried Vanguard officials, and his face darkened. Once upon a time, the 8 Vanguard officials had absolute trust and loyalty toward His Excellency Tyrant, but now when did they start to waver? That's right. When Black Star entered the Beyond Grade A realm and the Tyrant lost, these signs appeared. Thinking about this, Xiaoda felt complicated and vexed. If he had known, he would have gone against the tyrant's will and killed him in the secret war. Black Star, this is really a vicious plan that goes straight to the core. You have to win, Your Excellency Tyrant. Otherwise, it will be difficult to lead the team. Sigh, what a pity. There are no ifs in this world. Jode sighed. At this moment, Heber suddenly opened his eyes and looked in a certain direction. Beep beep beep. The radars of every spaceship reacted. Everyone looked in the same direction and subconsciously held their breath. The Black Star fleet slowly appeared in the distance, neither too fast nor too slow, arriving late. They're finally here. Heber's eyes were cold, and his hands behind his back clenched tightly. P.S. I recommend a book, The Old Alley. The author is an expert in concealment. Introduction. Beijing in the 25th year of the Republic of China is about to welcome a great change. Behind the prosperity, there are traitors in the alley. Chu Mufeng, a small criminal police officer, has great ambitions. Chapter 951. The spaceships along the way all move to the side, making a path for the Black Star fleet to pass through. Under the excited and expectant gazes of countless people, the Black Star fleet slowly flew above the Black Star Tyrant. The black steel hatch opened and countless mechanical soldiers swarmed out, forming a long dragon. They quickly formed a dense and neat formation in the sky, occupying the sky. Their armor reflected the same galaxy. pairs of mechanical eyes looked down at the brown planet below, focusing on the lonely tyrant. Heber stood with his hands behind his back, unmoved. He coldly looked at the dense mechanical army in the sky and suddenly snorted. His powerful lungs let out a roaring sound wave. Buzz. The echo was like thunder. Then, every cell of Heber's began to pump energy crazily, allowing the radars of every spaceship to detect a high-energy reaction. The pugilist flames in his body roared and surged, condensing on his legs. His body seemed to have become countless times heavier. Even though he was standing still, the ground under his feet cracked and spread. Both sides had assumed battle stances and were itching to fight. The tense and austere atmosphere was like an invisible net that instantly enveloped the entire battlefield. Countless people present became nervous and could not help but hold their breath. This time, the Lord's avatar stepped out from the crowd and came to the front of the Mech Legion. Its body was covered in mechanical force, and its eyes were shining. It carried Han Zhao's will. "I'm here," Han Zhao said in the public channel. "Humph." Heber snorted coldly. This time, the dynasty did not interfere. Both of them knew that the battle would only end when one of them fell. Suddenly, Heber bent his knees and stomped on the ground. With him as the center, a shock wave spread out in all directions. Boom! The ground cracked under his feet, and Heber shot into the sky like a rocket. His eyes flashed with a cold fighting spirit, and he shot toward the Mech Legion in the sky like a golden meteor. In the sky, violent mechanical force surged out from the Lord's avatar, instantly connecting all the Mech Legion. At this moment, Han Zhao activated many skills and habitually cast a luck curse on Heber. The next moment, the vanguard troops, who were in charge of attacking and resisting, suddenly dove down and charged toward Heber. There was no point in saying anything in such a situation. There was no foreplay. Both sides went straight to the point as soon as they met. The golden meteor collided with the vanguard mechanical army. Countless melted armor and broken parts exploded like bombs, shooting everywhere. Bang! 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 Heavy mechanical soldiers shattered and fell one after another. The golden meteor penetrated deep into the formation before gradually slowing down and being entangled by countless machines. The long-range troops at the back spread out and spun around Heber like a metal tornado. They shot out psionic cannons and dark energy annihilation cannons one after another. Countless beams of light shot toward Heber from all directions without any blind spot. The black mechanical army surrounded Heber, and this scene was like a flock of crows dancing around the sun. From time to time, reddish-gold martial arts waves would shoot out from the center, piercing through the flock of crows' formation like shooting out sun flames. A dazzling reddish-gold beam of light shot out, and the dozens of mechanical soldiers jointly activated their psionic shields. The beam of light exploded on the blue shields, creating an expanding energy shockwave. The huge explosion blasted these mechanical soldiers away, but they were not destroyed in one hit. After flying for a distance, they regained control of their bodies and turned around to continue the battle. Han Zhao's Mech Legion had been strengthened many times. Even when facing a beyond grade A, they would not be so weak. Although this batch of old machines had not been upgraded into the products of a divine throne mechanic, under the enhancement of his mechanical force, they were no longer mechanical soldiers that Heber could casually destroy. In this battle, the situation Heber faced was different from before. In the previous battle, Heber's goal was to establish his dominance and eliminate Han Zhao's main body as quickly as possible. However, now that Black Star had risen to fame, Heber did not need to end the battle as quickly as possible. He was very clear that since Han Zhao's main body was not here, the only way to win this battle was to eliminate all the Mech Legion present. Once he destroyed all the troops brought by Black Star's doppelganger, he would win. Therefore, Heber's mentality became stable and was not anxious at all. He had long been prepared for a protracted battle. He focused on killing the mechanical soldiers and charged brazenly between the formations. He did not have any intention of charging head-on at all. The protective aura around his body turned into a golden ball of light, enveloping Heber within. From time to time, psionic cannons would hit Heber's body, but most of the damage was reduced by his protective aura and various resistance talents. However, the remaining damage still made Heber feel even more pressured than before. When the psionic cannon hit his body, every attack that passed through his protective energy and hit his body caused him to feel pain. Heber was secretly shocked by Han Zhao's growth speed. He clenched his teeth and thought to himself, although I can only fight a protracted battle, the longer it drags on, the more disadvantageous it will be for me. I have to increase my killing efficiency. With this thought, he could not help but increase the frequency and strength of his attack. On the other side, Han Zhao controlled the Lord's avatar to observe the battle and frowned as he looked at the combat information on the interface. What a tough and thick super HP bull. During the previous battle, there were still many question marks on Heber's combat information interface. Now that his level was higher than Heber's, the information he received was complete. Heber's level was 296, and some of it was the level of his subclass. Han Zhao was an anomaly. Compared to him, the level difference did not have much reference value. Although his overall level was not much different from Han Zhao's, Heber's grade was still S and did not have a plus. This was the difference brought about by various bonuses. Heber's HP was around 8 million, and his endurance was over 12,000. He also had a bunch of explosive skills that increased his strength, agility, and endurance. Needless to say, he also had all sorts of pugilist skills. He had a lot of resistance talents, such as true damage immunity, low damage immunity, fixed damage reduction, super toughness, and so on. These were all talents that Han Zhao had seen in the previous battle, and their defense was terrifyingly high. Due to the interference of the dynasty, the previous battle ended with the tyrant retreating, and there was no clear victor between the two of them. Han Zhao obtained a tie, but in reality, he did not deal much damage to Heber back then. Against Heber, he could only slowly grind away at his HP. Luckily, his mechanical force bonuses and the Mech Legion had been strengthened many times, so his damage was significantly higher. Therefore, Han Zhao did not use the perfect mechanical sense character summon card this time, nor did he need to. Under normal circumstances, the tyrant was no longer his opponent. After the battle began, a Grade S mission popped up on his interface, named Tyrant Heber. It was exactly the same as the mission triggered in the previous battle. According to the different circumstances of challenging a beyond Grade A super, such a mission would be randomly generated, and it was triggered this time as well. This avatar of mine only carries a portion of my attributes and abilities, but it's enough to fight Heber head-on and reduce the speed at which he kills the Mech Legion. With a thought, Han Xiaoxin's Lord's avatar suddenly attacked, passing through the many layers of defense and heading straight for Heber, who was in the center. A metal fist covered in mechanical force and psionic energy punched out. With a cold snort, Heber's muscles bulged, and it was as if there were many entangled pythons hidden under his skin. His tendons stretched, and his fresh muscle fibers twisted into a bundle, twisting out a powerful elastic force. A terrifying force gathered from his entire body to his arm, and he turned around to punch the Lord's avatar. The crimson gold fist collided with the blue metallic fist, and an intense energy shockwave burst forth, quickly spreading in all directions. Dong! The intense shockwave pushed the surrounding mechanical soldiers a long distance away, and an empty space was created in the atmosphere above Black Star. With the bonuses of Heroic Wrists, Divine Void Force, and other growth talents, Han Zhao's current strength had reached more than 6,000 points, and his melee attack was also very impressive. The battle between the two moved around Black Star, and the galactic residents watching from afar closely followed the battle. On one of the spaceships, the Radiant Federation's scouts were recording the battle. Radiance and Ethereal placed great importance on this battle, and they had both sent out scouts to collect information. Black Star's current strength would affect their plans for the evolution cube, so they had no choice but to pay attention to it. At this moment, Manason's remote projection was standing in a corner of the cabin, watching the battle through the window. The tyrant's chances of winning are very slim. Is that so? I feel that although the tyrant is surrounded, his body is very tough. He should be able to last until the Mech Legion is completely wiped out. The captain carefully expressed his opinion. Manason shook his head. I can feel that Black Star is stronger than before, and Heber won't be able to last that long. His condition will only get worse. Furthermore, Black Star still has many trump cards that he hasn't used yet, such as the Void ability on Planet Lighthouse. Hearing this, the captain nodded in agreement. I just don't know. After a pause, Manason pondered. How much has Black Star grown? Could it be that he's already at my level? It can't be that fast, right? At this moment, the space in the distance suddenly fluctuated, and the magnificent palace of hidden spells jumped over. Oh, they've already started fighting. Looks like I'm late. At the top of the palace of hidden spells, Austin sat cross-legged in midair, watching the battle between the two with an interested expression on his small face. At this moment, most people's attention was on the battle between Han Shao and the tyrant. Although they noticed Austin's arrival, they only glanced at him briefly before eagerly turning their gazes back to the battle. Han Shao also noticed Austin, and could not help but twitch his mouth. Why are you always the referee when we fight? You're Captain Dragonfly? However, he did not have the time to care about the old man. Han Shao retracted his attention, and continued to control the Lord's avatar to fight Heber head-on. Boom boom boom. Black Star's surface rapidly became riddled with holes. The aftershocks of the battle and the missed psionic cannons would occasionally land on the ground, creating countless craters. As the battle progressed, Black Star's surface shattered and became filled with craters, as if it had turned into an onion. The crust of the planet was shaved off layer by layer, and the shape of the entire planet changed. The battle between Han Shao and the tyrant was like a carving knife, carving this planet with broad stroke. Facing the human wave tactic alone, and the damage of the Mech Legion was beyond imagination, Heber quickly fell into a disadvantage and became very passive. Everyone in Bloodshed Land felt their hearts clench. Facing a team, His Excellency Tyrant is already so passive. Furthermore, he fell into a disadvantage not long after the battle began. Could it be that the difference between the two of them is even greater than we thought? In the previous battle, His Excellency Tyrant was clearly suppressing Black Star. In just a few years, the positions had swapped. Every dog has its day. Looking at the tyrant, who was in a rather sorry state, Foster's clenched his fists tightly, his expression uncertain. Boom boom boom. A series of psionic cannons landed on Heber's back, and the power penetrated his body. A metallic taste appeared in Heber's throat, and his body paused for a moment. Just as he revealed an opening, Han Zhao's Lord's avatar seized the opportunity and punched him in the chest. Then, both of his hands turned into a giant cannon, shooting out a dazzling blue beam and sending him flying. Halfway through the flight, just as Heber was about to stabilize himself, the psionic cannon's focused fire came again, blasting him into the air. Suddenly, a huge impact came from his back, and a large group of melee mechanical soldiers waving all kinds of ferocious weapons slammed into his back, changing his trajectory once again. After being continuously attacked like a storm for so long, no matter how strong Heber's body was, he could not take it anymore. He felt like he was a sandbag being crazily beaten up. His entire body was in pain, and he had fewer and fewer opportunities to fight back. Bang! After being beaten up for a few rounds, Heber fell straight to the ground, creating a human-shaped crater. Cough! Star's shaking fist. Enduring the excruciating pain, Heber hastily mustered up his strength and blasted out a thick, dazzling golden pugilist wave toward the mechanical army that was chasing after him in the sky. A gigantic chain reaction explosion ball of light exploded, and the light devoured a large number of mechanical soldiers. However, after the energy dissipated, he discovered that most of the mechanical soldiers had used psionic shields to block it. Although they were heavily injured, they could still continue to fight and could not even be forced to use waste modification. The difference? How is it so huge? Heber was shocked and angry. When he accepted the challenge, he was still quite confident, thinking that he should have a high chance of winning against Black Star's team. However, after fighting for so long, he had already used all his means, but in the end, he discovered that he might not even be able to defeat Black Star's team. How is this possible? In the beginning, Heber could still resist the encirclement of the Mech Legion when he was at his peak state. However, as his injuries worsened and his energy consumption increased, his condition inevitably deteriorated. Han Xiao was different. He was the type of person who fought more and more bravely. Just the circulation of his HP and MP alone ensured that his energy would remain high. He also had talents like advanced strengthened life, battlefield wisdom, and won against 10,000 men. That increased his attributes along with the battle. The longer he fought, the higher his combat power would be. Under such circumstances, Heber was becoming more and more pathetic, almost becoming the king of beatings. If this continues, I'm definitely going to lose. Thinking of this, Heber's eyes suddenly turned blood-red. He did not like any form of failure, especially losing to Black Star in such a pathetic manner. This was the most unacceptable to him. Boom! The next moment, Heber's entire body blazed, and the high-energy reaction he emitted continued to soar in an abnormal manner. The pugilist wave that gushed out tore all the mechanical soldiers nearby into pieces of metal. Oh, what skill did he use? Han Xiaoxin looked at the interface and realized that a new status had appeared on Heber's status bar. Polar Channel Flow, Cellular Overdrive. He was not unfamiliar with this move. This was a pugilist skill that players had learned in his previous life. Its effect was to forcefully activate the potential of the cells, overclocking the body, energy, and other attributes to the greatest extent, temporarily obtaining the combat power for the next promotion within a few hours to a few days. However, the repercussions were very serious. Once this skill was used, the cost of leveling up one's character and skill would permanently increase by 7%. Every time it was used, it would stack once. There was no upper limit. It was equivalent to squeezing out one's future potential in exchange for temporary explosive power. Normally, no one would use this move unless they had no other choice. Han Xiao was a little stunned. Is it really that hard to accept losing to me? You even resorted to such a self-destructive move. However, the next moment, when he saw Heber's eyes, Han Xiao understood. That pair of bloodshot eyes were filled with the stubbornness and pride of an expert. Although the tyrant's usual style was very pretentious, at this moment, Han Xiao had to admit that this was a qualified warrior. Indeed, those who can become beyond grade as are a bunch of people who don't easily admit defeat. Han Xiao pursed his lips. The sudden burst of energy from Heber was also sensed by the radars of everyone present. They were all shocked and began discussing in the public channel. Whoa, the tyrant's high-energy reaction is still rising. What's going on? Is Heber going to use his trump card? I thought he was done for, but it seems like there's still a chance. Is the tyrant going to turn the situation around? Heber's body was covered in flames, and he directly crossed the 52,000 energy rank limit. His grade also rose to S+, and the wounds on his body were rapidly healing. He stared at Han Xiao with anger. He clenched his fists, and a dazzling golden light lit up in his palms, becoming brighter and brighter. It looked like he was preparing for a big move. At this moment, Han Zhao's Lord's avatar suddenly stopped in midair and looked down at Heber, whose aura was rising crazily. "Since you're so serious, I won't play with you anymore." As soon as he said that, mechanical force spread out like a spider web and connected to every single mechanical soldier. The next moment, all the mechanical soldiers flew toward the Lord's avatar like birds returning to their nests. They assembled and stuck together, and a huge mechanical construct gradually took shape. The mechanical force chains that connected every single one of them were like the nerves, blood vessels, and tendons of a huge life form. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The mechanical soldiers seemed to have turned into parts one after another, and all the scattered mechanical soldiers quickly merged into one. This is, under the shocked gazes of countless people, a huge mechanical assembly appeared in the sky above the black tyrant star, its size extremely shocking. A heavy wave spread out from this huge mechanical assembly, and everyone had an intuition that this was not simply piecing together all the machines. This assembly was an independent new entity. Heber's eyes widened, and the pugilist wave that he was rubbing started to flicker like a light bulb. At the same time, Manison, who was watching the battle from the Radiant Federation's spaceship, seemed to have been smashed by a huge hammer. His eyes widened and shock flashed through them. This is a mechanical deity? Chapter 952. Manison was all too familiar with the mechanical deity. This was his trump card, and it had been many years since an opponent had been able to force him to use it. Now that he suddenly saw that Han Zhao also had this power, his emotions were in turmoil. Previously, Manison was still doubtful, but now, he could finally confirm that Black Star had truly reached his level. Unbelievable! This growth speed. Manison's eyes were filled with shock. In terms of the age of a beyond grade A, Black Star was too young, so young to the point of immaturity. However, why was he able to break through common sense and become so strong in just a few years, completing what other beyond grade As had taken decades to accumulate? Was it really because of his talent? Since ancient times, no one had ever had such terrifying potential. Manison clearly remembered that the last time he sparred with Black Star, the mechanical sense talent displayed by Black Star was clearly very embarrassing. It even made people wonder if he was a fake beyond grade A. If it was not because of his talent, what other reason could it be? Manison suddenly had an idea. Could it be that Black Star had other universal treasures other than the evolution cube and the spacetime amber? No matter what, this growth speed is too strange. There must be something strange about it. Black Star must have some unknown secret. Thinking of this, Manison suddenly had a strong desire. If possible, he really wanted to dissect Black Star and find out the truth. Suppressing the impulse in his heart, Manison's eyes flickered, and he secretly thought of a question. Black Star already has the power of the mechanical deity. Then, did he discover the secret of the machinery faith? Normal beyond grade As did not have an interface and were unable to completely understand all of their own data. They could only explore the use of their various abilities. Therefore, not all Divine Throne mechanics could discover the special effect of the key of Adeptus Mechanicus. If not for the knowledge passed down by the mechanical race, Manison was not sure if he would have been able to discover the bonuses brought by the believers of the machinery faith. The question now was, did Black Star discover this ability? All along, Manison had been spreading the name Mecha Empire, occupying almost all the believers of the machinery faith and obtaining huge bonuses from it. If Black Star also discovered this point, he would definitely become his competitor and an obstacle on his path. At this moment, the importance of Black Star in his heart had risen to the highest level. I need to pay more attention to him. Manison narrowed his eyes, his face expressionless. Oh my God! It's so huge. I actually want to worship it. Is this normal? The Mecca of mech legion's appearance, and the countless galactic residents present had a look of shock on their faces. Of course, to compare to it was to the size to the tyrant was to the size gigantic was to the tyrant with it was like an ant. Not only was it huge, but the mechanical deity also exuded a powerful aura, making everyone who saw it have the urge to kneel down and worship it. Its appearance could be constantly changed, and the specifics were controlled by Han Zhao's consciousness. The mechanical deity was a huge silver-black mechanical sphere, like an egg. Countless nanoparticles and mechanical structures flowed on its surface, filled with the beauty and weight of machinery. Under Han Zhao's control, the head, arms, and legs extended out from the egg, and the mechanical deity turned into a humanoid structure. The nanoparticles on its face turned into facial features, looking like Han Zhao himself. It looked like a giant version of Black Star that had been enlarged countless times. Inside the body, all the independent mechanical soldiers were turned into parts of the mechanical deity. The mechanical force chains were attached to all the mechanical soldiers, forming intricate energy transmission pipes in the body. They were also used to control the movements of this big guy, acting like a nerve center. The mechanical deity had the functions of every combined mechanical soldier, and it could be used on any part of the body through nanoparticles. Furthermore, the effects were greatly stacked. For example, if one fused 100,000 shield generators, the mechanical deity could also use 100,000 shields to protect every corner of its body. It could also fuse and stack psionic shields to form extremely thick shield. Han Zhao's physical senses extended to every corner of the mechanical deity's body, as if this was his original body. This feeling is not bad. This was the first time Han Zhao had used this ability, so it was quite novel. The mechanical deity lowered its towering head and looked down at the planet. Its vision passed through the sea of clouds and locked onto the incomparably tiny tyrant. Its huge right palm was raised, and it slapped down like a mountain falling from the sky. The palm broke through the atmosphere, and flames appeared at the edge of the palm. Its shadow covered a large area, blocking all of Heber's vision. Rumble! The sound of the air breaking was like the sky was falling. Heber's expression was ferocious. He gritted his teeth and got rid of the shock in his heart. He pushed his palms toward the sky, and highly condensed pugilist waves shot out from his palms. Star-shattering pestle. With Heber's palms as the center, a red-gold halo with a diameter of tens of meters popped out horizontally. The pugilist waves expanded and turned into a thick red-gold beam of light with a diameter of tens of meters, shooting toward the rapidly descending palm of the mechanical deity. The thick pugilist flames were like streams of mist, rising around the light beam. It was so thick that it looked like it was about to liquefy. The light beam with a diameter of tens of meters was not considered thin, but against the mountain-sized palm of the mechanical deity, the image was like a toothpick poking into a person's palm. Clack! A large number of mechanical parts moved on the palm of the mechanical deity, quickly transforming into dense shield generators. Countless psionic shields were activated, connected, and stacked together, forming a super-large psionic shield that covered the entire palm. It was like a huge gradual blue bubble. The next moment, the red-gold beam of light arrived in the blink of an eye and hit the palm of the mechanical deity. Boom! A hurricane that swept everything suddenly rose, and the golden shock wave spread rapidly, sweeping across half of the planet's surface. The clouds were scattered and the crust was lifted. Even in space, the golden energy ripples produced by this shockwave were visible to the naked eye. The huge chain reaction explosion energy cluster expanded, shattering a large number of psionic shield. The mechanical parts on the surface of the palm melted on a large scale, and flaming red spots appeared. However, the palm of the mechanical deity did not stop at all. It continued to press down as if it was holding the explosion energy cluster and smashing it down. Heber kept increasing the output of his pugilist waves. The veins all over his body bulged, and the muscle fibers on his arms burst one after another, dripping with blood. However, it was as if he did not feel any pain. His bloodshot eyes stared at the rapidly expanding palm of the mechanical deity in his sight. He crazily squeezed out all the energy in his body, releasing all the energy waves through his hands as if he was going to face the palm head-on. The red-gold beam of light quickly shortened, and the palm of the mechanical deity finally smashed into the ground. At this moment, Heber's vision was only left with a vast expanse of white. Boom! The palm of the mechanical deity slammed into the planet and continued to penetrate deep into the ground, forming a deep palm print. The explosion energy cluster was directly stuffed into the depths of the planet's crust. Cracks appeared on the ground, and dazzling light shot out from the cracks. In an instant, the vibrating sound waves that were enough to kill countless ordinary people exploded on the surface of the planet. The next moment, the light cluster expanded completely, and an earth-shattering explosion occurred in the depths of the planet, directly blowing up half of the planet. The shattered continental plates broke away from the planet's gravity and turned into meteorite. The liquid core in the depths of the planet was exposed, and high-temperature magma and star core material were spewed into space. The dazzling red liquid material quickly cooled and solidified, turning into irregularly shaped black rock plates that drifted in the universe. In the blink of an eye, Black Star's appearance seemed to have turned into an apple with a piece removed. However, this situation did not last long. The star core that had lost its balance quickly collapsed, and the planet collapsed inward. The second round of explosion occurred. Boom! The star core expanded and turned into a huge explosion of light. All the materials that made up the planet were thrown out, and the entire planet was torn apart. With one slap, Black Star was directly crushed. The energy shockwave of the planet's explosion swept out and affected the crowd watching the battle from afar. The shockwave swept through the formation of the audience, and the spaceships shook one after another. All of them popped up their stress shields. Black Star exploded. Although the galactic residents watching the battle in space could not hear anything, it did not stop them from imagining this earth-shattering scene. Countless people instinctively trembled in front of this terrifying scene, and some even almost lost control of their bowels on the spot. This explosion also affected the mechanical deity. The psionic shield array that covered the mechanical deity was like a dense shield wall, but at this time, a large area was shattered, and large areas of melting appeared on the surface of the mechanical deity. However, the next moment, nanoparticles flowed on the surface of the mechanical deity, repairing the damage. Because of the loss of a lot of materials, the mechanical deity shrunk slightly, but its size was still huge. The many galactic residents present could not help but gulp and stretch their necks to look for traces of Heber. Where's the tyrant? Could he have been killed by the explosion? It can't be, right? He can use his body to smash through a planet. The explosion of a planet can't kill him, right? At this time, the battlefield became a large newly formed asteroid belt. Han Xiao glanced around and did not find any traces of Heber, so he simply looked at the interface. In the combat information, Heber's health had decreased by a large amount. If not for his true damage immunity and fixed damage reduction, this would have taken away half of his life. Now, his injuries were also very serious, but he still had the ability to fight. It looked like a slap, but in fact, this attack contained a lot of mixed damage. It contained a large amount of psionic impact damage, the explosion damage from Heber's own trump card, and the large amount of shockwave damage from the palm. Furthermore, the mechanical deity had countless power output devices, and the mechanical force bonus was even more shocking, comparable to the legendary galactic titans. Therefore, the power of this attack was extremely terrifying, causing a chain reaction on the planet. Of course, this powerful attack was accompanied by a large amount of energy consumption. If not for Han Zhao's energy regeneration talent, the mechanical deity would have become Ultraman and could only fight for 3 minutes. Han Zhao was looking for traces of the tyrant when suddenly, he felt a pain in the right arm of the mechanical deity. A series of explosions occurred from the inside out, and the initiator was none other than Heber. So, he took advantage of my slap to send himself into the right arm of the mechanical deity, wanting to destroy this huge body from the inside? Han Zhao shook his head slightly. The tyrant's choice did indeed seem to be the most correct strategy. Most people thought that the huge mechanical structure was very cumbersome, and its weakness was the inside. However, for a mechanical deity that could transform any part of its body, this rule did not apply. There were mechanical parts all around, and the heavily injured Heber was wantonly destroying the inside of the right arm of the mechanical deity, smashing through all the structures along the way and charging straight into the depths of the mechanical deity. However, at this time, the internal structure of the arm deformed, and mechanical soldiers quickly assembled, using the inside of the arm as a battlefield. They rushed up and fought with Heber, hanging onto Heber's huge body one after another. Scram! Heber was enraged, and his protective energy exploded, sending all the mechanical soldiers clinging onto him flying. Just as he was about to continue charging forward, his feet suddenly sank, and the mechanical structure below him suddenly turned into a trap, biting onto half of Heber's body and locking him in place. Countless mechanical tentacles shot out from all directions, wrapping around Heber in circles. These tentacles were made of nanomaterials, using a self-created synthetic material. They had no other advantage other than being very strong, and they were specifically used as ropes. Immediately after, the structure around him changed again, turning into different mechanical devices. Electromagnetic chains, molecular oscillation, gravity multiplication, space distortion, and many other control abilities were released at the same time, all acting on Heber. Heber instantly felt like he had fallen into a swamp. Not only did he feel dizzy, but his movements also became extremely difficult. At the same time, psionic cannon nozzles appeared in all directions, all aimed at Heber, and without a word, all of them landed on Heber's mountain-like body. It was a good idea to attack the mechanical deity from the inside, but entering the body of the mechanical deity was equivalent to stepping into the home field of the mechanics, walking right into the trap. Heber was dizzy from the explosion, and his rage was almost maxed out. With a roar, he ignored all restrictions and punched toward the depths of the mechanical deity's arm. Star-shaking punch. Rumble. A reddish-gold beam shot out, penetrating all the mechanical structures along the way and going deeper into the mechanical deity's arm. However, just as the beam reached the elbow, a psionic shield wall blocked the path of the star-shaking punch, and the star-shaking punch smashed into it. Bang! With a flash of light, countless parts were blown away, and the right arm of the mechanical deity was severed from the elbow. Heber was also sent flying, tumbling in the universe. His eyes swept over this scene, and his spirits were instantly lifted. However, before he could get excited, the severed right arm suddenly disintegrated, turning back into mechanical soldiers. Immediately after, dense chains of mechanical force shot out from the severed arm of the mechanical deity, sticking to these mechanical soldiers like a spider web and pulling them back. The next moment, the scattered mechanical soldiers gathered again, and the right arm of the mechanical deity was reconstructed. Heber's expression froze. Only a peak beyond grade A pugilist has a chance of breaking the mechanical deity from the inside. Han Zhao took a deep breath. You're not strong enough. He did not plan to let the tyrant rest. Suddenly, countless psionic cannon nozzles appeared in front of the mechanical deity, focusing their fire on Heber. While attacking from a distance, countless thrusters appeared on the back of the mechanical deity. Dense exhaust flames spurted out from the back of the mechanical deity, pushing its huge body toward the tyrant. The huge fist did not seem to have a high hit rate, but when Heber dodged the fist, The closest part would become a psionic cannon or a new mechanical weapon to attack, and any part of his body could transform at any time. No matter how he dodged, he would still be hit. The only difference was what kind of attack he would be hit by. After barely blocking for a while, Heber could not take it anymore. He was beaten up crazily by the mechanical deity, becoming a sandbag that was thrown around. When the spectators saw this, they understood the situation. They originally thought that Heber would be able to turn the situation around, but he was still completely suppressed by Black Star. From the looks of it, there was nothing he could do. At this moment, the image of Heber being trampled by Han Shao was imprinted in everyone's heart, and they would never forget it. The domineering image in the hearts of the shattered Star Ring citizens was shattered. Chapter 953. The battle turned into a one-sided beating. The miserable state of Heber being beaten up by the mechanical deity appeared in every pair of eyes. No one knew when this beating would stop. Some people could not bear to watch and looked away. However, they could not help but look back. It was rare to see a Beyond Grade A in such a sorry state. This was very precious video footage, and not many people were willing to waste the opportunity to watch it live. It would be something they could brag about in the future. The people of the Bloodshed Land watched as their respected tyrant was beaten up by Black Star. Their eyes were about to pop out of their sockets, and a sense of humiliation and anger rose in their hearts. They almost could not help but want to help. However, they knew very well that even Heber was not Black Star's match. If they went up, they would only be sending themselves to their deaths. Not only would they not be of any use, but they would also ruin the fairness of this battle and make others look down on the Bloodshed Land. Furthermore, the tyrant himself would not forgive others for interfering in his battle. Therefore, even though they were trembling in anger, they could only watch as their boss was beaten up by Black Star. Bang! Rother's facial muscles twitched, and he smashed the metal cabin wall with a slap. His entire body was trembling, and he suppressed his urge to attack. Tyrant! Jode clenched his teeth and felt humiliated. Their boss was beaten up by someone else, and they also felt ashamed. On the other side, the many Beyond Grade as of the 3 universal civilizations were also watching the battle through the live broadcast. After the Battle of Planet Lighthouse, the Beyond Grade A Circle had already acknowledged Black Star's strength. Most of the Beyond Grade as thought that Black Star would win, but they could guess the result but not the process. In their minds, Heber would at least be able to cause some trouble for Black Star and get rid of more than half of his mechanical army. However, they did not expect that in reality, Heber would not even have the slightest chance of winning. Black Star completely controlled the battle. He's actually in such a sorry state. What an ugly loss. Raven Loudy shook his head. Black Star is really a scary guy. I feel that Heber is already very strong for being able to last this long. If I were there. Baoni could not help but put himself in the shoes of Black Star. Thinking of the result, he could not help but shiver. Seriously, why did I have to scare myself? Black Star and I are good friends. About this, I believe that you and Dylan will have a lot of common topics, Melizzle. Viru, on the other hand, was a little sad. Sigh, after this battle, the tyrant's reputation will be gone. As a martial artist, when he saw Heber being beaten into such a miserable state, he could empathize with him and grieve for his friend. These Beyond Grade A allies of the advanced civilizations all knew what Black Star could use the mechanical deity. It meant that he had already stepped into the peak Beyond Grade A level. Logically speaking, it was not embarrassing for Heber to be defeated by Black Star. However, the tyrant's actions against Black Star in the past became the source of the backlash. The grudges between the two of them made it difficult for Heber to back down. Once he failed, he would be pulled down from the altar. Not to mention, he was beaten up so badly. Not only the dynasty's allies, But the Beyond Grade as of Radiance and Ethereal were also discussing Black Star in their own channels. Han Zhao's performance made all the Beyond Grade as tremble. While they were discussing, the mechanical deity suddenly stopped. Everyone's eyes sparkled. Oh, there's a result. An irresistible force came from the palm of the mechanical deity, and Heber was sent flying again, smashing through the asteroids along the way. His momentum gradually came to a stop, and he finally crashed into a huge continental plate fragment. His entire body was imprinted on it, leaving a human-shaped crater. Blood blurred his vision. Heber's trembling hands grabbed the edge of the crater and pulled himself out. There was not a single part of his body that did not hurt, and he was covered in blood. He did not know how many bones and tendons were shattered. He could feel the terrible state of his body. His organs had almost turned into a pile of mush, and his extremely tired cells were barely able to repair themselves. The pugilist flames on Heber's body were like a candle in the wind, flickering and extremely dim, as if they could be extinguished at any time. He clenched his teeth tightly, wanting to summon his strength again. However, a sense of powerlessness ran through his entire body like an electric current, and he did not even have the last drop of strength left. Looking up, the mechanical deity did not continue to chase him but only looked at him from afar. "Come on!" Heber wanted to roar, but he could not make a sound in the vacuum, so he could only move his mouth. At this time, the mechanical deity disintegrated on its own, and the Lord's avatar popped out. The Lord's avatar slowly floated in front of Heber, staring at this guy who did not have a single piece of intact flesh on his body. It released a gas to surround the two of them, and at the same time, it opened the wide area communication channel. "It's over. You no longer have the strength to fight." Han Zhao's voice sounded in the wide area communication channel, reaching the ears of everyone present. "This injury is just a scratch for me. I can still fight you for an entire day." Heber's eyes were bloodshot. Ignoring the fact that his body was already at the end of its flight, he dragged his broken arm and punched the Lord's avatar. But the punch was easily blocked, and there was not even a tenth of his strength left. Han Zhao took a deep breath and said coldly, "Admit defeat. You've already lost." In the combat information, Heber did not have much health left, and there were debuffs all over his body. If this continued, he would definitely die. Han Zhao's goal had already been achieved. There was a bottom line to everything. The dynasty did not interfere in the battle because they knew that he had a sense of propriety and would not allow an ally to die in the hands of another ally. Going too far was not worth it. There was no need to cause trouble for the dynasty's upper echelons and other allies just because of a single tyrant, which would affect their future development. The current tyrant was no longer qualified for him to eliminate him at all costs. Admit defeat? There's no such word in my dictionary. I don't need your pity. Heber roared and was about to continue attacking. The next moment, mechanical imprisonment devices flew over and locked Heber's entire body, leaving only his head exposed. Ka ka ka. Heber struggled with all his might, but in his current state, he could not break free from these devices. Stop lying to yourself. You've already lost. You should know how serious your injuries are. Han Zhao's tone sank. Heber did not reply. He only glared at Han Zhao, the unwillingness and anger in his eyes almost solidifying. Han Zhao glanced at him and slowly said, "Don't worry. We're all allies of the dynasty. I'll spare your life." Hearing this, Heber's mind buzzed, and he felt an unprecedented sense of humiliation. He had only managed to escape because of this identity. It was as if someone had given him his life. To him, this was a huge humiliation and torture. He felt that his dignity and pride had been trampled under Han Zhao's feet, and he was so angry that he almost went crazy. At this moment, Han Zhao suddenly had a thought and retreated a short distance. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Rothers and the other vanguard officials flew over like shooting stars, blocking in front of the tyrant and protecting Heber behind them. "We've lost," Rothers said with great difficulty. He then clenched his teeth and said, "But if you still want to do anything to His Excellency Tyrant, you'll have to step over our dead bodies." The many vanguard officials responded with a roar, their faces filled with vigilance. Some of them were ready to die, while others were hesitant. "What are you doing? Get out of my way!" Heber was enraged. He had always been the one to protect others. When had he ever been protected by his subordinates? He only felt embarrassed and humiliated. "If I've lost, so be it. I'm a Beyond Grade A. Why would I need the protection of you Calamity Grades?" "No." Rothers did not even turn his head. His tone was firm, and this was the first time he had disobeyed the tyrant's order. Looking at the backs of the vanguard officials, Heber was a little stunned. He had always viewed his subordinates as expendable items. This scene made him feel complicated, and he remained silent. In the distance, Jode pursed his lips and looked around. He could see the confusion and conflict in the eyes of many bloodshed land members. He knew very well that the tyrant's defeat had shaken many people's belief in working for the bloodshed land. Many people joined a Beyond Grade A organization for a better future. The status of a Beyond Grade A was the source of cohesion. Therefore, when the leader of the organization was defeated, some people who pursued benefits might switch to another organization. "I wonder how many people will leave because of this." Jode sighed. They might not join the Black Star Corps, but there would definitely be people who would leave the bloodshed land. This scene also fell into the eyes of all the spectators. The bloodshed land had been growing rapidly recently, and they did not expect to receive such a heavy blow today. Seeing the arrogant tyrant and bloodshed land fall into such a sorry state, everyone felt extremely miserable. Some of them could not help but feel pity for them. Han Shao ignored these vanguard officials and glanced at Heber, who was silent with a defeated expression. "Let's settle the old scores between us for now." As soon as he said that, Han Shao did not care about Heber's reaction. He retracted his gaze, turned around, and flew toward the Palace of Hidden Spells in front of everyone. This was also a signal to everyone that the battle was over. As the winner, Han Shao did not need to say anything else, nor did he need to continue chasing after the tyrant. That would make him seem ungenerous. After winning this battle, his goal had been achieved. Everything else would happen naturally, and he did not need to do anything. Seeing this, the surrounding spaceships all made way and watched as Han Shao disappeared into the Palace of Hidden Spells. Everyone present knew that from this moment onward, the strongest person in the Shattered Star Ring had been born. Sigh, we lost as expected. In the Bloodshed Land Fleet, Sorokin's avatar sighed. After this battle, Black Star had completely solidified the position of the Black Star Corps as the overlord of the Shattered Star Ring. Even if the Bloodshed Land could continue to compete in terms of business, they would still be lacking in the end. The difficulty of the plan has increased. Sorokin was helpless. The dynasty's employer could not stop the battle, which made Sorokin a little depressed. However, he did not completely rely on them. No matter what, he was just a financial group and did not have absolute confidence in interfering with the decisions of a universal civilization. Glancing at Heber, who was being supported by the vanguard officials, Sorokin clicked his tongue. He did not know how long it would take for the tyrant to recover from his mental state. This might affect the cooperation between the two sides. Sigh, the situation has become troublesome again. Sorokin's eyes flickered. A Beyond Grade A who builds fame will encounter such a calamity sooner or later. Fame is both an influence and a shackle to the Beyond Grade As. Luckily, I'm not as stupid as the tyrant and have foresight. Only by abandoning the shackles of the Beyond Grade A identity, not relying on any fame or battle records, and abandoning all of the past can one truly live like a fish in water, free and unrestrained. If he had the choice, he would not accept the battle at all. Unfortunately, the tyrant was dragged down by his reputation and made a foolish choice. He did not even realize that he was shackled. Poor guy. Sorokin shook his head. At the same time, the Lord's avatar stepped into the Palace of Hidden Spells and met with Austin. Han Shao summoned a mechanical throne, sat down, and looked around. You still like to join in the fun. Has the Palace of Hidden Spells been repaired? It was repaired long ago. After chatting for a while, Austin teased him. Hee, from today onward, you're the chief beyond grade A of the Shattered Star Ring. What do you think? Nope. Han Shao shrugged and chuckled. Actually, I've been the chief for a long time. All I lacked was a title. You're really not polite. Austin chuckled and did not deny it. He knew that he was not Han Zhao's match. Cisco had suffered before, Ames and Black Star were on the same side, and now, even Heber had been defeated. Black Star had officially become the strongest person in this star field and the main representative of the Red Empire in the Shattered Star Ring. After seeing his old friend and chatting for a while, Han Shao bade farewell and controlled the Lord's avatar to bring the mechanical army back to the battleship. After setting the return route, he deactivated a Lord's descent. The next moment, his consciousness was pulled out and returned to his main body in the dynasty. The vision of the Lord's avatar disappeared. Han Shao opened his eyes and saw the scene in his room. After sitting in silence for a while, Han Shao slowly exhaled. He had temporarily destroyed Tai Tai's mentality, and the expansion of the Bloodshed Land would definitely be affected. The pressure on him could be reduced slightly. Today, he finally got his revenge for being bullied back then. Han Shao could finally vent his anger. The belief of a beyond grade A was not so easily shaken. The tyrant would accept reality sooner or later and recover his mentality. However, he did not have to worry about the tyrant in the short term. Standing up and stretching, Han Shao opened the door and walked straight to the cabin hall. All the officers on the ship were watching the live broadcast of the battle. The tyrant's mission was already completed, and he could draw the reward at any time. The next step was to do the necessary procedures before drawing the ability. Fu Ding touched it and turned it into a motorcycle. A new month has begun. Begging for monthly vote. Chapter 954. In the cabin hall, the many Black Star Guards were either standing or sitting. Their eyes were all focused on the virtual screen in the middle. On the screen, Heber was slapped into the depths of the planet by the mechanical deity. The next moment, the planet exploded. This was the super high-definition battle video recorded by the Galactic Media. It was currently being replayed with sound effects. Although this was the second time he had seen this scene, Hardaway could not help but be shocked. When will I be able to reach such a level? Maybe in your next life? A Black Star Guard beside him smirked. This person was also a Calamity grade who had joined very early on and was friends with Hardaway. With your Esper ability, even if you reach the Beyond Grade A level, you probably won't have such destructive power. Aurora shook her head. His Esper ability can only take a beating. Maybe when he reaches the Beyond Grade A level, he'll become the favorite punching bag of all Beyond Grade As. Humph, you're just jealous. Hearing this, Hardaway snorted unhappily. To be honest, even if you break through the limits of your Esper ability and reach the Beyond Grade A level, you might not be able to take a beating as well as His Excellency Black Star. Plus, you don't have as many attacking methods as His Excellency Black Star. I think you'll be the weakest Beyond Grade A in history. Thinking about it, Hadavi felt that his future was bleak, and he couldn't lift his spirits. Lying on the sofa, Guyu turned into a salted fish. Don't worry about that. Fu Ding smiled gently and squeezed Hardaway's shoulder. Maybe you won't even reach the Beyond Grade A level. Hardaway rolled his eyes and said with annoyance, "It's you, Chen Xing, don't imitate the Vice Army Commander." While they were chatting, the cabin door slid open. Everyone turned around and saw Han Shao striding in. "Greetings, Army Commander." Many people hurriedly stood up and bowed. Pairs of burning eyes stared at Han Shao. After watching the entire battle live, the black star in their hearts became even more powerful and mysterious. As his strength increased, their respect for Han Shao also deepened. "They're all here." Han Shao nodded and glanced at the video on the virtual screen. He couldn't help but laugh. "Haven't you seen it? Why are you still replaying it? This is all for the sake of admiring your heroic bearing." Hardaway approached with a fervent look on his face. He had once joined the Black Star Corps for a trade, but after witnessing the Black Star's potential so many times, he was now wholeheartedly working for Han Shao. After this battle, everyone knew that Black Star had officially become the strongest person in the Shattered Star Ring. The title of strongest in the star field was not just an empty title. The fame, influence, and halo it brought were immeasurable. Only a Beyond Grade A Super could obtain this title by defeating all the experts in the same star field. In the Shattered Star Ring, although Black Star was very strong in the past, to the public, he was not famous. There would always be people comparing him to the Tyrant. Now that he was famous, most of the ordinary galactic residents recognized him as the strongest in the star field. Seeing a bright future, Hardaway could not wait to hug Black Star's thigh and accept Han Zhao's beatings every day. Seeing this, Han Shao had a strange expression. He remembered that before Hardaway joined him, he was still quite cool. How did he become like this? Could it be that my charisma was that great? Shaking his head, Han Shao came before Fu Ding. Just as he was about to touch Fu Ding jumped away like a panicked deer. Wait a minute, I'm now Morning Star." Han Shao paused, put down his hand and chuckled. "It's fine, no rush. I'll wait for you to change back." Morning Star hurriedly retracted into his mind, and Fu Ding's consciousness came online again. His temperament became like a spring breeze, and his face was filled with helplessness. In the past, when he was touched, Fu Ding was still a little resistant, but now, he had accepted his fate. After so many things, even he himself doubted if he was really that lucky. Seeing this, Han Shao happily went forward and touched him. Only then did he leave with his hands full of luck, feeling that he had been blessed. Returning to his room, Han Shao opened the interface and chose to complete the mission. Any reward was a Heber character summon card. It was as if Fu Ding's luck had exploded. The ability of the character summon card was Polar Channel Flow, Cellular Overdrive. Although it could only be used once, there were no side effects due to the mechanism of the character summon card. The experience reward was the normal standard for a Beyond Grade A boss mission. 20 to 30 billion experience filled up his experience pool that was gradually drying up. As for the 2 legendary points from the previous mission, they did not appear this time, which meant that the legendary point reward was a one-time use. However, because of the influence of this matter, he still received an additional legendary point. Universe Legendary Point, the strongest person in the Shattered Star Ring. You are already standing at the peak of a star field. Your name will be spread throughout the entire universe. This legendary point is clearly something that players will not be able to obtain. Han Shao complained in his mind. After completing these rewards, it was time for the final reward, the ability draw. You have received the reward. Draw one of Heber's abilities, ability/talent. Tip: Heber is a pugilist. Some of the abilities have been adjusted according to your class. Randomizing. Randomizing complete. Please select one from the following 5 options as your reward one. Berserk Energy Ability. Plus 110% energy attack damage, plus 50% consumption. Duration 10s. Cooldown 75s. 2. Polar Channel Flow. Cellular overdrive ability. Release the limits of your cells and squeeze out your own potential. You will temporarily explode with a higher level of combat power, lasting from a few hours to a few days. After use, you will be in a weakened state for 1 month. Level and skill upgrade costs will be permanently increased by 7%. 3. Close Range Killer Talent. Plus 40% close range attack speed, plus 2 all close range skill levels. 4. Legendary Fixed Damage Reduction Talent. When facing any type of attack, after calculating the normal resistance, a fixed damage reduction of 7,500 points will be calculated. The remaining damage will be calculated for the resistance talents with lower priority. This talent is compatible with low-level damage immunity. If you have the low-level damage immunity series of talents, the fixed damage reduction value will be the limit of low-level damage immunity. 5. Critical Combo Ability. When you perform a combo attack on the target, the critical hit rate and critical hit damage will increase with the number of combo attacks. The maximum stacking is 75% critical hit rate and 350% critical hit damage. Duration 5s. Cooldown 80s. Han Xiao was slightly overjoyed. Touching Fu Ding was indeed different. There were quite a few good items. However, the more good items there were, the easier it was to choose. Han Xiao thought about it and decided to remove Berserk Energy first. This skill increased pure energy damage. Although his mechanical force could also hurt others, the damage was too low, so he never used it. This skill was most suitable for pugilists to use Shockwave Blast, and it did not provide much bonus to himself. Polar Channel Flow. Cellular Overdrive was a good skill for explosive power, but the side effects were quite daunting. This was not like the side effects of the Evolution Cube that had a time limit. The permanent increase in experience cost was a pain in the ass. Although it was only 7% per use, it could be stacked infinitely. As for the effect, just look at Heber. If he could not beat him, he would still not be able to beat him. He might even be beaten up for a longer time. Just thinking about it made his heart ache. This ability was not very useful for mechanics who did not rely on their own bodies. Compared to temporary explosive power, Han Xiao was more inclined to prepare more mech army before the battle. Furthermore, he had just obtained a character summon card without any side effects, so he could pass on this skill. Close Range Killer was most suitable for pugilists and mechanical pugilists. Although it was useful for him, it was not crucial. As for Legendary Fixed Damage Reduction, this was definitely a molding talent. Although 7,500 points of fixed damage reduction did not seem like much, this was because he was looking at it from the perspective of a Beyond Grade A. If a Calamity Grade Super had this talent, they would be reduced by 7,500 points every time, and their resistance would increase by at least 2 to 3 levels. If a Grade B or Grade C got it, they would basically be invincible against those of the same grade. If the players encountered such a boss, it would be nothing short of despair. This ability came together with the low-level damage immunity series. Heber had the legendary low-level damage immunity talent, and he would be immune to all attacks with actual damage lower than 16,000. However, this did not mean that legendary fixed damage reduction was useless. The normal rule of low-level damage immunity was that he would be immune to all damage lower than the limit, and attacks higher than 16,000 would not be affected. After adding legendary fixed damage reduction, the effect would be that for attacks higher than 16,000, the actual damage would be reduced by 16,000. Then, the resistance talents with lower priority would be calculated. This was the result of the combination of the two, increasing the limit of the reduction. However, now that he could only draw one of them, the effect would be reduced to a certain extent. In fact, what Han Xiao wanted more was Heber's Super Toughness talent. This was the secret of Heber's tankiness, and it had lower priority. In other words, the order of the damage reduction for Heber would be as follows. First, the energy of a beyond grade A would be reduced by 1 layer, followed by 1 layer of the physical body's normal resistance, and then the actual damage value would be obtained. Next, the 16,000 damage reduction would be deducted, and finally, the high reduction from a super toughness would be calculated. According to rough calculations, the theoretical damage of tens of thousands would be reduced to 2 to 3 digit. The last one, critical combo, was extremely suitable for him. The number of combo attacks from the Mech Legion was a joy that pugilists could not imagine. It would definitely be able to max out the critical strike rate in the shortest amount of time, steadily increasing his damage output. What a dilemma! You have received a legendary fixed damage reduction. Luzi was right. Every tank had the heart to deal damage. He really wanted to choose the critical combo, however, it was not easy for him to draw a molding talent. It would be too wasteful to let it go. His resistance was not low to begin with, and he also had a hopeless recovery rate. Adding on the damage reduction, just the thought of it was terrifying. I'm probably going to walk down the path of being a tank until the end, but I really want to deal damage. Han Shao was a little troubled. After sorting out the rewards, Han Shao let out a breath, calmed himself down, closed the interface, and pondered about the impact of this battle. He had obtained the title of the strongest in the star field, which would help the Black Star Corps' business in the Shattered Star Ring recover. At the same time, he would be able to attract a wave of new talent. The decline of the Bloodshed Land's influence would not hinder the investment of the Limitless Financial Group. The other party was still his main competitor. However, this matter would increase the difficulty of the expansion of the Bloodshed Land. As for the dynasty, since they did not interfere before, it meant that they had tacitly agreed. Tai Tai was probably hurt a little too deeply by me this time. The construction and development of the flickering world is now the most important. I estimate that for a very long time, the 3 universal civilizations will not have an open conflict. This way, I will have a stable external environment to develop the mechanical civilization and the Black Spirit race, as well as start building a secondary dimension factory, Han Shao pondered. He had already set the tone for the version updates in the past few decades, which was to build up his accumulations steadily. As Black Star and the Bloodshed Land left, the spectators present also dispersed. The spies of the Radiance and Ethereal immediately uploaded the battle recording. Not long after, this recording was sent to the upper echelons. The upper echelons of the 2 universal civilizations held an impromptu meeting specifically for this matter. Everyone has seen the recording. What do you think? In the Radiant Federation's upper echelons meeting room, President Bader looked around at the elders and upper echelons present and slowly asked. The chief elder tapped his walking stick and said with a hoarse voice, regardless of the reason, it is a fact that Black Star has the strength of a peak beyond grade A super. The Red Empire is about to welcome its 4th strongest national pillar, which is very disadvantageous for us. That's right. Another upper echelon had a solemn expression as he said with a deep voice, furthermore, Black Star is too young. He can serve the dynasty for a very long time, and he is also the most difficult virtual mechanic to deal with. In the future, it is not impossible for him to grow to the level of Manison. We are gradually losing our advantage in terms of beyond grade as. What I'm worried about is when Black Star will grow again. Someone frowned. We once thought that he would be quiet for a few decades, but this has proven to be a mistake. Every time we think that he needs a long time to stabilize before he can continue to increase his strength, the facts prove us wrong. Hearing this, everyone fell silent. Facing an opponent like Han Shao who broke the rules time and time again, everyone felt pressured. If that's the case, we will have to make some adjustments to our strategy regarding the evolutionary totem, the chief elder said slowly. That's right. Bader pondered. I will have to discuss this with the Arcane Church. This battle that had attracted a lot of attention ended. However, in the next half a month, not only did the news not die down, it even continued to rise. Countless galactic media outlets played the recording of the battle on the various channels of the various star systems, and the process of the tyrant being beaten up was especially emphasized. With the media's dissemination, even the galactic residents who were not interested in the battle were able to appreciate the heroism of the tyrant. Now, those who did not know that the tyrant had been defeated all knew about it. A beyond grade of being beaten up was something that everyone loved to see, and this matter quickly became the topic of conversation for countless galactic residents. In the eyes of the majority of the people in the other star fields, the tyrant was a relatively unfamiliar beyond grade A. Now that Heber had made his presence known by getting beaten up, he became extremely famous. There were rumors that after the battle ended, Heber went home and locked himself in his room. Even his subordinates could not see him. This matter spread like wildfire, and a special group also noticed the mechanical deity that Black Star had displayed. The machinery faith. Chapter 955. A huge black palace made of metal and mechanical materials sat on top of a lone peak. Two mechanical islands that looked like star globes slowly rotated above the palace. A bright red artificial sun hung in the sky like a bloodshot eye, illuminating this barren land. On the ground around the lone peak, there were countless large mechanical mine platforms. With the Black Palace as the center, a circular mechanical city with heavy industrial style was built. Small black dots that looked like ants moved around in the city. They were countless believers of the machinery faith in power armor. Floating heat waves passed through the city. Armored transport vehicles whizzed through the wide road. Their armor plates collided with each other in the bumpy road, making clanging sounds along the way. The sound went away with the exhaust. The air was filled with the smell of metal, engine oil, and industrial exhaust, adding a heavy industrial feel to this city. This was a branch of the machinery faith, located on a famous ancient battlefield planet in the ancient star desert. These mines excavated the mechanical wreckage underground day and night and sent it to the priests of the machinery faith for reverse research to read the lost technology. The Black Palace in the center of the city was the temple of the machinery faith. Every mountain that carried the machinery faith was called the Holy Mountain. 8 obsidian-like floating stairs extended all the way up from the foot of the Holy Mountain in 8 directions, connecting to the gate of the machinery faith. According to the teachings, unless it was an emergency, if ordinary believers wanted to visit the temple, they had to climb a pilgrimage path with their own feet. They were not allowed to take flying vehicles. On both sides of these 8 pilgrimage paths, there were mechanical statues or metal tablets. The statues were of different models of abandoned ancient machines that slowly became more advanced. The metal tablets were engraved with the teachings of the faith. The combination of machinery and theology had a unique flavor. The machinery faith was a loose religion, not a unified religious organization. What they had in common was that they worshipped mechanical technology and powerful mechanics. However, according to different philosophies, the machinery faith was divided into many factions, specializing in different fields. For example, the machinery biochemical faction focused on biomass gear, the war and destruction faction that was crazy about super destructive weapons, the firepower advantage faction that believed that big is beautiful and more is better, the virtual faction that liked to research cognitive technology and mind modification, the nature modification faction that liked to mold planets, and so on. This branch belonged to the believers of the Lost Sect. The Lost Sect was also known as the Archaeology Sect. They were passionate about searching for and recovering lost ancient mechanical technology. They were one of the machinery faith branches with the longest history. At this moment, in the main hall of the mechanical palace, the high priests of the local division were gathered. There were also a large number of high priests from other divisions participating through remote projections. Everyone was gathered in a circle, and in the center was a virtual screen, playing the video of the battle between Black Star and the Tyrant. Everyone has seen it. A new mechanical deity has descended into the world, spreading gospel to the entire universe. The great divine priest of the lost sect, who was dressed in luxurious heavy power armor with only his head exposed, raised his arms high. His tone was like that of a pilgrimage. Too spectacular, too beautiful. What a great creation. How many years has it been since I last saw the mechanical deity descend? I can't even remember. Many divine priests whispered to each other, their eyes flashing with excitement and fanaticism. Silence. The great divine priest gestured with his hands. His face was solemn as he signaled for everyone to be quiet. Everyone stopped talking and looked at him in unison. The great divine priest took out a mechanical scepter that looked like a twisted tree branch. He pressed a button, and a metal altar suddenly rose from the ground behind him. He turned around and walked up. With his back facing everyone, he faced the other side of the hall and spoke in a loud and clear voice. In accordance with the ancient teachings, in the name of the original God, Nilfgaardi, I declare to all believers of the machinery faith that we will witness the birth of the new God together. From today onwards we will worship the new God. All living beings, please remember the name of the new God. As he prayed, the great divine priest opened the operation screen of the altar and entered the battle video and parameters. The next moment, the entire temple shook. Rumble! Right in front of everyone, countless metal and nanoparticles flowed from the ground and combined to form a statue. It was the statue of the Black Star mechanical deity. Beside the Black Star statue, there were other statues. Manason's statue was among them. These were the mechanical deities of the past, standing under the towering dome of the temple. The largest and most eye-catching statue inside was of a mechanic named Nilfgaardi. This person was the primordial one, the first mechanical deity that the machinery faith worshiped. In fact, the teachings of the machinery faith to worship the mechanical deity were even formulated by him. As the first divine throne mechanic, Nilfgaardi discovered the effect of the key of Adeptus Mechanicus. So he interfered with the machinery faith at that time. The development of the machinery faith to its current state was largely influenced by him. The divine throne mechanics that were worshipped later were actually enjoying the benefits that he left behind. The machinery faith did not need to communicate with the worship. Sometimes, worshipping you was pointless. However, only the living divine throne mechanics could give their believers the blessing of feedback. These dead mechanical deities of the past were only memorials. Now, most of the believers of the machinery faith worshipped the Mecha Empire Manason. Now, Black Star's rise tore a small hole in their stable belief. This was something that even Manason could not stop. Facing the statues of the past, the Grand Priest and the people behind him bowed and completed the ceremony. Welcome, Black Star. I keep feeling like someone is saying that I'm handsome behind my back. In the cabin of the battleship, Han Shao pinched his nose and suddenly felt something. Hey, don't get distracted when you're talking to me. Terekov had a helpless expression on his face. Han Shao came back to his senses and joked, Sorry, I was thinking about what to eat tonight. Where were we? Do you still need to think about it? Do you think I don't know that you only eat nutrition paste? Whoa, who leaked the news? Alright, let's get back to the topic. Terekov was speechless. He shook his head and said, I can tell you that the dynasty's development plan for the flickering world has already reached the 4th phase. Only the first phase will give you enough time to build. After that, more foreign capital will be brought in to develop the flickering world. This means that the dynasty will only start the next phase of the plan after the construction of the 3 star clusters is completed. There won't be many chances for us allies to build a foundation in the flickering world. Han Shao stroked his chin. Terekov did not deny it. In any case, the development of the 3 star clusters has exceeded our expectations and is going very smoothly. We estimate that the construction plan will be completed in 5 to 7 years, and the second phase of development will begin then. 5 to 7 years, that's not too bad. Han Xiao nodded in his mind. When version 4.0 started, the flickering world would be in the 4th phase of development. This meant that he still had to go through a few rounds of the flickering world main storyline mission, and completing the Explorer milestone would not be a problem. He had chatted with Terekov to get some insider information. After chatting for a while more, Han Xiao hung up the communication and fell into deep thought. It had been more than a month since he defeated the tyrant, and the impact was starting to show. During this time, the number of people applying to join the Black Star Corps had increased by 43%, and the investment of the various financial groups had increased by 35%. As for the Bloodshed Land, their momentum of expansion had suffered a blow, and they were gradually slowing down. The Wayne cards, which acted as the weather vane for the news, made some changes and announced that the Black Star Core deck would be strengthened in the next version, while the Bloodshed Land deck would be weakened in all aspects. At the same time, they also updated the commemorative deck of the strongest in the star field and added Black Star to it, displaying their proficiency in riding the hype. Some of his Beyond Grade A friends also sent congratulatory messages, and one of them was Sorokin. This once again refreshed Han Zhao's understanding of how thick his skin was. It turned out that shameless people could really be very happy, now that the Black Star Corps had established their position as the strongest in the star field. The competition on the Limitless Financial Group's side had fallen into a long tug-of-war, and they could not do anything to each other in the short term. Furthermore, Han Xiao had already completed his level 300 promotion, and the experience he had accumulated was not enough for the next promotion. Thus, his next focus would be on the construction of his territory. After wandering around the dynasty for so long, he had basically seen all the potential stocks that he should have seen. Han Xiao planned to return to the Shattered Star Ring for a period of time. Firstly, he wanted to stay in the headquarters and digest the impact of this battle. At the same time, he wanted to adjust the details of the construction of his territory and use mechanical proliferation to create more first-generation mechanical life forms to speed up the development of his mechanical civilization. Secondly, he wanted to make use of the logistical capabilities of the headquarters to start building a secondary dimension factory and a new generation of Mech Legion. Although he could build them in the dynasty, the Mech Legion only had a division here, and the efficiency would be far lower than in the headquarters. Philip, set the route back to the Shattered Star Ring. Okay, strongest in the star field? There were very few customers in the retro-style tavern. A tall and thin man beside the wooden bar looked up at Han Zhao's figure on the virtual screen and gently put down the wine glass in his hand with a playful smile. This person was a space human. His skin was unhealthily pale, as though he had been in a state of malnutrition and darkness for a long time. His appearance was ordinary, and he was the kind of person that one would not be able to find once thrown into a crowd. Staring at Han Xiao on the screen, the tall and thin man had a nostalgic look in his eyes. To be able to obtain a national pillar like Black Star, it's the dynasty's blessing. The owner of the bar wiped his wine glass and looked up at the screen. That's right, it's really the dynasty's blessing. If there's a chance, I really want to meet him again. You've seen Black Star before? The bar owner was interested. You can say so. Speaking of which, he even took some things from me. I wonder if he still remembers a small fry like me. The tall and thin man smiled slightly, stood up, picked up the clothes on the seat next to him, and walked toward the door. Still on credit? The bar owner put down the glass in his hand. His tone was obviously familiar with this person. Yeah, same as always. Once I get my salary, we'll settle it together next month. The tall and thin man casually replied, walked out of the bar, and put on his clothes, a Dynasty Basic officer's uniform. Somewhere in the sea of star spirit. In a room, more than a dozen people of different species surrounded a long table, discussing something intensely. There were more than a dozen printed books on the long table, but there were no titles on the covers. Start from the central galaxy? Are you crazy? That's not the way to die. A star field that's too far away won't have enough influence. The territory ruled by a supercluster civilization should be the most suitable for development. We can only use physical books to promote our ideas. The quantum network is monitored by countless civilizations. Not only will we not enjoy the convenience, but we will also attract attention. If you ask me, let's wait and see for a while. Now might not be a good time. Listening to these people's discussion, Rosalind, who was leaning on the sofa not far away, yawned. Edmund turned around, thought about it, and knocked on the table to get everyone to quiet down. He then turned around to face Rosalind. What do you think? Tell us. Rosalind smiled faintly. You guys really look like a bunch of misfits. Hearing this, many people frowned, somewhat dissatisfied. Edmund waved his hands, not getting angry at all. You're right. We haven't done anything yet, so of course we're a mob. I hope to hear your opinion. Rosalind clicked her tongue, sat up, and slowly said, The current environment of the universe is still considered stable, and the friction between the three universal civilizations will not turn into a direct conflict for the time being. However, there are undercurrents flowing underneath. Every civilization has a string pulled taut, and the reason is the flickering world and the evolutionary totem. The essence of this. I've already stated it very clearly in my plan. The root of the problem is the internal strife between the three universal civilizations and their opposition to the many star cluster civilizations. The flickering world is an opportunity to reshuffle the cards. While the attention of the entire universe is on the flickering world, we can quietly develop and promote our ideas in a low-key and peaceful way. We can use religion to package ourselves, lie low, and wait patiently for the opportunity. What opportunity? Someone asked. The supercluster civilizations hope to obtain a promotion channel through the new star field, but the three universal civilizations will definitely hold the benefits of the new star field firmly in their hands. What they leave for these supercluster and star cluster civilizations is only a small amount of profit. Since the exploration era, the three universal civilizations have suppressed them for too long. Everything has a limit, and it will reach a critical point one day. Those star cluster civilizations can't wait forever. After all, there are very few civilizations that give up. Furthermore, if they lose hope again, it might lead to conflicts. Thus, the flickering world has the potential to become the fuse, and this will be the soil for our development. Edmund nodded. I think so too. Now is the best time. Our cause cannot be delayed again and again. Hearing this, the crowd nodded in agreement. Seeing this, Rosalind sneered. To be honest, she looked down on this group of people in front of her. Among these people, there were people like Edmund who insisted on their twisted ideas, ambitious people with ulterior motives, and people like her who wanted to see the world burn. Breaking the restrictions of the three universal civilizations on the development channels of other races? It sounded good, but she did not care. Overthrowing the three universal civilizations was her motive. This made her feel very excited. No organization was more suitable to be an opponent than the three universal civilizations. Edmund might have believed in his own ideas, but in her eyes, this was just a good starting point. In the galactic era, where resources were abundant, no one would have to worry about survival anymore. This was a revolution that did not start because of survival. Rosalind saw the unresolvable conflict between the three universal civilizations and the super-star cluster civilizations, so she could make use of Edmund's philosophy to take advantage of the situation. The world often stood on the edge of a cliff, struggling to maintain its balance. All it lacked was someone to give it a push, just like pushing a lever at a fork in the tracks, leading history to an unknown path. If such an era did not exist, then she would try to create one. She just wanted to dance on the stage to her heart's content. If we want to start our cause, we need a name, Edmund said with a deep voice. Rosalind glanced at his silver skin and smiled playfully. How about Silver Revolutionary Army? Chapter 956. After sailing for a period of time, the fleet finally returned to the shattered star ring. Han Shao returned to the headquarters immediately and gathered his officers to summarize the work done during this period of time. It was mostly the same old problems, but the slightly better news was that the Germinal Financial Group was developing smoothly. As a subsidiary financial group under the Black Star Corps, they had people, money, and status. They even had the support of the Army's armed forces. It was as though they had opened a cheater in the shattered star ring, and they quickly gathered a large number of subsidiary businesses of the Army and negotiated long-term cooperation with countless business organizations. This made the structure of the Army much simpler. It was worth mentioning that the interpious that Han Shao had poached from the dynasty had shown excellent business talent. The team he led had always been ranked at the top, and they had signed many contracts for the financial group. Apart from gathering subsidiary businesses, they had also tried their best to open up new channels. In Sylvia's evaluation of him, Interpius had excellent business negotiation skills, strategic vision, leadership skills, persuasive eloquence, calm judgment, and many other qualities. He was an excellent management talent, and after training, he could be placed on the list of candidates for an executive position. Currently, the Black Star Corps was filled with talent. Due to its large scale, there were many positions for various levels of officers. Philip evaluated the members of the Army and selected different talents to form an extremely long list of candidates. The people on the list were all candidates for the Army's officers. Han Shao reviewed some of the backlogged documents, and after discussing official matters, the officers also relaxed. Han Shao turned around and asked, "By the way, how's Nero's learning going?" "Not bad, he's very talented," Reynolds said concisely. I'll go take a look after the meeting." Han Shao stroked his chin and suddenly said, "I have a question for you. Please ask. If one day in the future I have to kill your sister, what will you do?" Reynolds was stunned and hesitated. Don't be afraid. Just tell me the truth. Why do you want to kill her?" Let's say she did something wrong and harmed the interests of the Army." Reynolds exhaled, his face expressionless. "If that's the case, I won't hold a grudge against you. She has to bear the consequences of her actions. But by then, I won't be able to continue working for you. Please understand." The atmosphere became tense, and everyone present had different expressions. They knew that Han Shao would not speak without thinking. Could it be that Rosalind, who had left the Army, really did something? Han Shao looked at him for a while and suddenly laughed, making the tense atmosphere dissipate. "Who knows what will happen in the future?" "Don't mind it, there's nothing wrong with your answer." Leonard nodded silently and stepped aside, deep in thought. Glancing at his face, Han Shao shook his head in his mind. When the three founders of the Silver Revolutionary Army came to the Army to poach people, he had planted an observer's mark on Edmund. Not long ago, he saw the official establishment of the Silver Revolutionary Army from the observer's mark. The actions of Edmund and the others could not escape his eyes at all. According to his original plan, he was prepared to sit back and watch the Silver Revolutionary Army grow. Firstly, he would be able to grow leaks. When the three universal civilizations paid attention to the Silver Revolution, he would be able to make contributions. Secondly, he would let people he knew very well trigger the conflict between the three universal civilizations and the supercluster civilizations. Only then would it be easier for him to deal with them. Thirdly, he would secretly make arrangements, feeling that there might be an opportunity to use the Silver Revolution in the future. However, Han Zhao's thoughts would never remain unchanged. He would always adjust his plans according to the situation. Now that his position in the dynasty had been consolidated, he did not need this contribution. The problem with the World Tree was something he only encountered later, and it had become a ticking time bomb. With the external threat in advance, whether he should continue to let the Silver Revolutionary Army become a problem. The conflict between the three universal civilizations and the supercluster civilizations was the trend of the era. Sooner or later, these advanced civilizations would rebel against the ruling position. The conflict would inevitably erupt, and the Silver Revolutionary Army was the fuse that happened to ignite it. Han Zhao knew that killing the Silver Revolutionary Army in advance would not resolve the conflict, but there would be a chance to delay the eruption. No matter what choice he made, he had to deal with the upper echelons of the Silver Revolutionary Army. Many times, thoughts were more terrifying than guns, and reformers would not have a good ending. Therefore, Han Zhao was concerned about Leonard's thoughts and wanted to give him a heads-up. However, people like Leonard would not change his mind once he decided on something. Sylvia looked around, coughed, and broke the silence. "By the way, I have an interesting proposal here. Please take a look." As she spoke, she pressed the communicator, and a virtual screen appeared. On it was a document. Han Zhao glanced at it, raised his brows, and said, "Super education plan?" "Yes, we have opened training camps on many planets to train reserve members, but it's too militarized. Only soldiers who have signed a contract to become reserve army soldiers can receive the training." The idea of this proposal is that the Black Star Corps will fund and open civilian super schools in the Shattered Star Ring. Any civilian will be able to pay to go to school, and there will be no need to become a reserve member of the army. Wait! Han Zhao raised his hand. Such super schools are everywhere. Every galactic civilization has their own official super school. There doesn't seem to be a need for me to do this. No, it's still a little different. Sylvia shook her head. You're now the strongest in the star field. This title has the power to attract students to the maximum. The civilian schools we open have a different meaning. Han Zhao stroked his chin, browsed through the proposal, and casually asked, "What about the benefits?" Opening a super school named by you can effectively expand your influence. You can treat this as a public service act. Sylvia spoke calmly. Many of the Army's current businesses are too different from the galactic residents' lives. Opening a school will allow the galactic residents to turn their admiration for you into actual support, allowing your influence to penetrate deeply into the masses. At the same time, many of the idle army soldiers will have something to do. Sounds good. Han Zhao nodded. This method was also helpful in cultivating Li. In the past, they did not do this mainly because their influence was not large enough and they did not have enough funds. However, the current Black Star Corps did indeed have the qualifications to open a school. No matter how strong and famous a Beyond Grade A was, to the ordinary galactic residents, they were like celebrities. Apart from being a topic of conversation, they did not have much of an impact on their daily lives. Opening a school was a way to show their influence. By providing benefits to the masses would also support the various businesses of the Black Star Corps in their daily lives. The benefits were long-term and multifaceted. Furthermore, the size of the Black Star Corps had increased by so many times, and there were indeed many soldiers who had nothing to do. No matter how many missions there was a limit. Compared to before, the security of the Shattered Star Ring had improved a lot. The Black Star Corps' galactic pirate happy house had long become a taboo term, causing countless galactic pirates and scavengers to tremble in fear. As long as they saw the insignia of the Black Star Corps, they would immediately pull up their pants and run. "All right, we'll do as you say." Let's test it out in the Colton star cluster first and open a few hundred schools. Then, the funds. I'll approve it for you. Han Shao waved his hand. Since the money was idle anyway, it would be good to use it to do something. Having money was also troublesome. Since my name is on it, I'm the honorary principal. As for the actual management, looking at Sylvia's receding hairline, Han Shao coughed embarrassedly and looked away. The great mechanic Han was furious when he saw the hairy Loggy, who was spacing out beside him. It's you, Loggy. You'll be the principal for me. Loggy came back to his senses with a bitter expression. Wasting my life on a meaningless post. This is the fate of all living beings. I didn't expect that even after doing my best, I still couldn't escape from this cycle. Hearing that, everyone's mouth twitched and they tried to hold back their laughter. You can make it sound so fresh and free from vulgarity even when you're lazy. You're really AF** King Genius. After watching the dejected Trash and the other officers leave the room, Han Shao took out his communicator and contacted Lodehair to ask about the situation. Lodehair's position was different from that of the Black Star Guards. He was a Shadow Walker. The Black Star Guards protected Black Star, while the Shadow Walkers operated secretly in the outside world to carry out assassinations, spies, ambushes, sabotage, and so on. Currently, Lodehair was the only Shadow Walker under Han Shao. After the incident with the Blood Gold organization, Han Shao had instructed Lodehair to infiltrate the black market organizations and collect intelligence while assassinating the middle-level officers of the Blood Gold organization. After a long period of observation, Han Shao had decided to let Lodehair establish the Assassin's Society as a secret subsidiary organization of the army. Lodehair was very strong and had a decisive personality. He was a quiet and reliable adult man who could take care of things on his own. Han Shao was still very confident in him and was not afraid that he would lose himself. After chatting for a while, Han Shao then went to the logistics department to visit Nero. Nero had grown a lot taller. After going through the hellish learning process, he was gradually getting used to it. When he saw Han Shao, he was very happy and rushed up to ask for a gift from Han Shao. Han Shao thought for a while and took out a learning enhancement device. He placed it in Nero's hands and successfully received a supercilious eye attack. After poking Nero as usual, Han Shao looked at the interface. Nero was currently at high mechanical sense and had not continued to evolve. Patting Nero's head, Han Shao pondered for a while and said, after a while, you can return to Blue Star to visit Bennett. You can also stay there to study. Hearing this, Nero's eyes became misty, and he said with a wronged expression, Are you chasing me away? What did I do wrong? Han Shao laughed and said, Haha, you misunderstood. I was thinking that it's not a good thing for you to always bury yourself in studying and not socializing. Coincidentally, the Army is preparing to open civilian schools, and Planet Aquamarine will definitely be one of the first test areas. You can go to school on Planet Aquamarine and spend more time with Bennett. You can also take some time to learn from Reynolds. It's a balance between work and rest. Just treat it as a reward for your hard work. Nero was shocked. Godfather's personality has changed? He actually wants to give me a holiday. What's with that look in your eyes? Why do you look like you've seen a ghost? I'm just happy. Nero swallowed a mouthful of saliva and secretly sized up Han Shao, afraid that this was someone else pretending to be him. Han Shao wanted Nero to learn perfect mechanical sense from Reynolds. However, after seeing that Nero had grown half a head taller, he felt that he could not squeeze him so much. In a few more years, Nero's childhood would be over. Perhaps letting Nero relax for a period of time would be beneficial for the improvement of his mechanical sense talent. After all, there was a wise man who said that all work and no play would make a smart child stupid. After settling the various matters, Han Xiao entered the machinery modification room and began to update all the Mech Legion in his inventory. At the same time, he also began to build another characteristic of the Divine Throne mechanic, the Divine Mechanical Throne. Chapter 957. Army Commander's Special Machinery Factory. Many silver-white workbenches were lined up neatly. Dozens of multifunctional mechanical arms extended from the base of each workbench and were being assembled at the same time. The entire room was filled with the sound of parts fitting together. Beside the workbenches were many assembly lines, and the other mechanical equipment was waiting to be processed. Han Xiao walked slowly in the busy workshop with his hands behind his back. The mechanical force he released was like a dense spider web, connecting all the workbenches like countless extended limbs. He was multitasking and building many machines at the same time. The current machinery construction was already very convenient. The efficiency of multithreading was directly related to one's intelligence. If he did not use an assembly line, Han Xiao could also modify a large number of machines at the same time and turn them into players. That was, the modification progress bar of these machines would be loading at the same time. These workbenches were extremely versatile high-level machinery manufacturing platforms, and they had been modified by Han Xiao. To a mechanic, the workbenches were also a type of equipment that increased their own machinery manufacturing ability. At Han Xiao's level, he would naturally use the good stuff. Han Xiao arrived in front of one of the workbenches. This was where the Divine Mechanical Throne was being built. At this time, the last component had been assembled, and the mechanical arm was currently being painted and spitting out cooling mist, which was white and cold. Waving his hand to disperse the fog, Han Xiao carefully sized up the Divine Mechanical Throne in front of him. This was a black throne made of alloy, and its surface was filled with mechanical patterns. It was squarish and well-defined, and one could tell that it was very ugly just by looking at it. Fortunately, Han Xiao had added the nanotransfiguration technology, which had the ability to enlarge, shrink, and adjust itself. It could perfectly fit any shape. The appearance was similar to the floating throne he had built in the past, but the technology inside was different. In the past, the floating throne only had the effect of showing off, but this one had an attribute bonus. Furthermore, it was exclusive to everyone. Divine Mechanical Throne, a Black Star item type, unique bonus equipment item level, 300 quality, orange legendary main materials, 8th generation Black Star alloy, mithril, 15th generation nano-shaped particles energy core, light modified stable psionic reactor basic stats. Durability 500,000/500,000, Defense 7,800, Shield 1, 500,000/1, 500,000, Effect 1. Mechanical Sense Magnification 1. 1x Total Machinery Affinity Effect 2. Aura Enhancement increases deterrence and affects all targets that see you. If the target is 30 levels lower than you, all their attributes will temporarily decrease by 10%. Effect 4. Cool, plus 750 CHA note. As long as you're handsome, that's it. Not only can it act cool, but it also has bonuses. What a pretentious divine artifact. Han Xiao stroked the Divine Mechanical Throne, feeling the cold metallic sensation. He could not bear to part with it. In the future, if I were to bring this thing out to fight, those who didn't know would think that I was full of arrogance. This was more in line with my cold and mysterious temperament. After experimenting with the actual effect, Han Xiaoxin put it away with satisfaction. He then looked at the other workstations. Most of the workstations were updating and strengthening the backup Mech Legion in the inventory, improving the technology to the level of a Divine Throne mechanic, giving them new performance bonuses. Another portion of the workstations were building new machines, many of which were blueprints of the Tyracle's legacy. The Tyracle's legacy was a new talent that could be chosen for the level 300 promotion. This race had a deep understanding of mechanical technology and had many unique machines. When Han Xiao completed his promotion, he had unlocked the level 300 blueprint. Some of the blueprints were useful to him now, adding dozens of useful new machines to his mech legion. According to their different functions, he had expanded many new units, including many new models of mechanical soldiers. The Universe Walker was a Tyracle's special mechanical soldier. It was purple and green and had a triangular horse helmet-like head. It was skinny and had a skeletal body. It used biochemical implant technology, and a large number of special nanobiochemical tendons and strengthening fluid were stored in the muscle module under the outer armor. After entering battle, the strengthening fluid would be injected, and the muscles would swell, turning from a bamboo pole into a muscular man's body. Furthermore, this type of machine had a special ability. It had 2 stages of transformation. The first was overclocking, which gave it an extremely strong explosive power and an all-around boost. The second was berserk, which was greatly strengthened on the basis of overclocking. At the same time, it could release a special distortion force field. It was very well-rounded in both close and long-range combat. After practical testing, it was discovered that the Universe Walker could defeat most machines with the same bonuses. Its basic performance was one of the best, making it a good line-resistant soldier. Han Xiao now had a few more apostle slots. He chose the Universe Walker with the best basic stats and turned it into an apostle weapon. Originally, he wanted to call it Purple Muscle Tyrant, but after thinking about it, it seemed a little overpowered. Giving an apostle weapon a name was like giving a child a name. Han Xiao pondered for a while before naming it Purple Sky Spirit, according to the name format of mechanical life forms. He planned to bring it back to the mechanical civilization and let it give birth to children. Other than that, there were many other good things in the Tyracle's legacy blueprint. For example, a physical missile equipped with precise hyperdrive guidance. The ammunition was a special high-energy polymer that had extremely strong corrosive and penetrative effect. It was very effective against battleship shields and could be used in space battles. If it encountered a battleship that was not equipped with dimensional anchors or force field interference, the missile could even directly jump over the shield and blast into the spaceship, causing direct damage. There was also an interesting Star Series device that could create a path to guide and focus the energy of a star, indirectly causing a Star Destroyer-level attack. However, what Han Xiao was more concerned about was a star energy concentrator under this series. Its effect was to collect a large amount of star material and condense it into a portable device through space technology. Furthermore, it would not affect the reaction of the star inside the device, thus creating a moving star. Other than supplying energy and guiding attacks, this device could also release material from other locations to form a new natural star. The size of the star was determined by the amount of material, which was equivalent to helping the star move. In the legacy knowledge, the St. Tyracle's people used this method to multiply stars. After the duplication was completed, they would fill the new star with dust clouds and material to increase its volume. This way, they would create a natural star with much higher efficiency than man-made product. What Han Xiao was more concerned about was the extension function of the star energy concentrator. If this thing was released on someone else's face, would it not be a portable star bomb? Its destructive power would probably not be much weaker than a primordial psionic bomb. Furthermore, there was no pollution problem, making it convenient to kill and steal. While Han Xiao was busy modifying the machinery, Sylvia was carrying out the education plan. The first step was to announce to the entire star field that the army was starting to develop education. Ever since Han Xiao defeated the tyrant, many galactic residents had been paying attention to his movements. They felt that Black Star would make a big move after obtaining the position of being the strongest in the star field. As soon as this announcement was made, a large number of citizens in the Shattered Star Ring became excited. Just the name of the star field's top beyond grade A super starting an education plan would attract a large number of people. The plan was to first prepare to open a few dozen schools in the Godora star system, and Blue Star was an important pilot area. Blue Star was developing rapidly. As soon as Nero walked out of the spaceship, he felt that Black Star City had become much more unfamiliar. Compared to when he left, it had changed too much. "I'm home," Nero calmed himself down and returned home. However, he realized that Bennett had gone on a business trip recently, and only his mother was at home. Because Han Shao had given him a break, Nero spent the next few days eating, drinking, and having fun, making him extremely happy. This is heaven. On the balcony of the high-altitude villa, Nero sat on a small stool with his legs crossed and a cup of ice cream in his hand. He happily drank with a straw and enjoyed the scenery of the city. In the Black Star Corps, he did not have any status and could only passively accept the arrangement. However, here, he was the son of the planet's leader, and it would not be an exaggeration to say that he was the young master. As long as he did not break the law, he could have almost anything he wanted, although he only asked his bodyguard to buy him a cup of ice cream. Zzz. At this time, the screens of a few buildings outside lit up and played the same piece of news. According to reports, the Black Star Corps announced the establishment of a super academy in Blue Star yesterday in an effort to find more talent. Federation President Bennett met with the executive principal of the Black Star Super Academy and gave an important speech. A live broadcast was shown on the screen, and a press conference was in progress. At the venue, Bennett and Logi's remote projections were sitting opposite each other and chatting in front of countless reporters. This was a high-level meeting room in the Government Affairs Building, which was also in Black Star City. Nero looked up and could see the Government Affairs Building. It seemed that Bennett had returned from a business trip. "I represent the people of Blue Star to thank the Black Star Corps for their generosity." In the screen, Bennett had a smile on his face and used official words to express his attitude. Logi remained silent and nodded. The official beside him passionately said, "Blue Star is the home planet of His Excellency Black Star, and His Excellency Black Star is very willing to help develop his home planet. The people of Blue Star are all our brothers and sisters." After being taught a lesson time and time again, Logi was forbidden from speaking in public. Han Shao had specially found a cheerful secretary to act as his interpreter. Nero focused on the screen. He had grown up watching news about Bennett. Every time he saw his father on the screen, he could not help but become more focused. Looking at Bennett on the screen, Nero suddenly realized that the wrinkles on Bennett's face seemed to have increased, and the white hair on his temples had also increased. "Father is getting old," Nero pursed his lips, and an unknown emotion spread in his heart. The happiness of the holiday gradually disappeared, and it was replaced by a feeling of not being able to study. After traveling in the universe, Nero's experience had increased a lot, and he slowly became more intelligent. He also had a vague understanding of the situation of Blue Star and Bennett's painstaking efforts. The concept of responsibility gradually formed in his heart. After hesitating for a while, Nero stuffed the remaining ice cream into his mouth and returned to his room. He unwillingly took out a mechanical theory book from his bag and read it with a bitter expression. After reading it for a while, he naturally immersed himself in it. Although he thought that he was unwilling, after studying for a long time, his interest in machinery had already been nurtured. He could not resist, so he learned to enjoy it. Set up a school? Seeing the announcement from the Black Star Corps, Sorokin could not help but fall into deep thought. He walked to the window, looked at another spaceship leaving the Bloodshed Land headquarters, and lightly shook his head. After Heber's defeat, the negative effects had gradually appeared. His reputation had collapsed, and the unity of the bloodshed land had been shaken. During this period, talents had already started to leave the bloodshed land. Every few days, someone would choose to leave the bloodshed land. They should have been suppressed with an iron fist, but the tyrant remained in seclusion, and the upper echelons did not take action either. The Black Star's education program was, in Sorokin's eyes, turning influence into actual support from the people. It was unprecedented, and the bloodshed land had fallen to the bottom. The contrast was extremely strong. Under such circumstances, Sorokin did not have any good ideas. He could only keep a low profile and temporarily stop attacking the Black Star Corps' businesses. He was prepared to wait for this period of time to pass before doing anything else. DDD. At this time, his communicator suddenly rang. Sorokin picked it up and saw that it was a call from Manison. "Your Excellency Mecha Empire, what's the matter? What business do you want to know about the Black Star Corps' businesses? Give me a list." Sorokin was stunned. "What do you mean?" "I'll do you a favor," Manison said calmly. "I understand. You want to hack into the Black Star Corps' database?" Sorokin's eyes flashed, and he was rather surprised. Was he not afraid of becoming enemies with the Black Star? "Your actions were also instructed by me. The Radiant Federation asked me to thoroughly investigate the Black Star Corps' database, so I'll take this opportunity to help you," Manison said calmly. "Not only that," Sorokin narrowed his eyes and joked. "Are you feeling pressured by the rise of Black Star? Don't ask about things that you shouldn't ask." Manison was unmoved. I understand. I'll send you the list later. If you can really get some insider information, it will be very helpful to my operation." "Okay." Manison nodded and hung up. In reality, the Radiant Federation did not ask him to hack into the Black Star Corps' database. This was what Manison had suggested. Helping Sorokin was just a bonus. More importantly, he wanted to test the strength of the Black Star again. Instead of fighting, he wanted to spar with him in the virtual world. One of the important reasons for doing this was because he knew that Black Star had been worshipped by the machinery faith. In Manison's mind, Black Star had officially turned from a junior with potential to a competitor. After a few interactions, Manison knew that Black Star was not someone who was willing to remain stagnant. As long as he obtained the faith of the machinery faith, he would endlessly want more. Manison was not prepared to sit back and watch Black Star take away the believers. Being indifferent to his own interests was not within his scope of consideration. Since the conflict of interests was unavoidable, Manison did not plan to continue watching from the sidelines. Of course, he did not think that Black Star was so easy to kill, and he did not plan to kill anyone himself. Manison's goal was to completely suppress Black Star in terms of machinery and show the world. His method was like how Han Xiao attacked the tyrant, damaging Han Zhao's reputation. This way, the believers of the machinery faith who worshipped the strong would not flow to Black Star, and the entire universe would know. I, the Mecha Empire, am still the father of all mechanics. Chapter 958. Godora Star System. On a planet with a surface civilization, a spaceport. A medium-sized tourist spaceship was parked at the spaceport. Several doors opened and gangway ladders were lowered one after another. People carrying bags of various sizes lined up to board the spaceship. This was a galactic flight to Blue Star, funded by the government. The people boarding the spaceship had a variety of backgrounds. Some were rich people who had bought seats, some were elites sent by the military, some were selected from the civilian population, and some were people who had bought seats at the bottom of the spaceship, wanting to leave their mother planet and change their destiny. For a character like Black Star to appear on planet Aquamarine, it was one of the lucky ones among the surface civilizations. In this star system, there were many surface civilizations that were subordinate to Godora, and this planet was one of them. It was as difficult as ascending to the heavens for a surface civilization that was born under the jurisdiction of an advanced civilization to develop. Although the civilization on this planet was not a stagnant pool, it obviously lacked the vitality to develop. Even this port was the only port on this planet. Throughout the year, there were not many interstellar visitors, which was a stark contrast to the prosperity of planet Aquamarine. The news of the Black Star Corps opening a super academy also reached this planet, and the upper echelons of this civilization immediately had thoughts. For a small place like theirs, they naturally did not have the qualifications to invite the army to open an academy. If they wanted to enroll, they could only go to a pilot planet. Therefore, the upper echelons of this civilization specially organized this flight to Blue Star. The goal was to send military elites and youths with potential to the super academy opened by the Black Star Corps to further their studies. For a surface civilization like this with limited development, it was almost impossible for them to surpass a star system civilization in terms of raw strength. The technology that they treated as treasures was not worth mentioning in the eyes of the advanced civilizations. Therefore, the only path they could take was the path of supers. As long as they could nurture a powerful individual, they would be able to raise the status of the entire civilization. Blue Star was an example of the envy of countless surface civilizations. Of course, they did not even dare to think about nurturing a cosmic figure like Black Star. The greatest hope of this civilization was to produce a calamity-grade super. The civilian academy opened by the Black Star Corps gave them some hope. The strongest academy in the star field should have a higher chance of nurturing a calamity grade, right? In the noisy long line, a dark and skinny little girl stood in the crowd. She was surrounded by 4 soldiers who blocked the crowd and protected her from being pushed around. It was obvious that she had received special treatment. "Uncle, what's a blue star like?" The dark-skinned girl held a cloth doll in one hand and held the corner of a soldier's shirt with the other. She was very young, and her eyebrows and eyes had yet to fully develop. However, upon closer inspection, she could be considered delicate and pretty. It was just that her skin was dull and a little dirty. However, her pair of large eyes were shining with a lively radiance. "Blue Star? I haven't been there either, but I heard that it's a bustling place," the soldier replied with a good attitude. "Then, when are we coming back?" "I don't know. It depends on the higher-up." "Oh." The dark-skinned girl hugged the doll tightly and felt a little uneasy. She had an instinctive fear of the unknown life. She was an abandoned orphan and had been taken in by a public orphanage. Not long ago, the government did a comprehensive potential test for all the children in the public orphanage. Some of the orphans were selected by the government and sent into this training team. She was one of them. To her, her peaceful days were suddenly broken. It was as though everyone was arranging her life. She did not know what was going on and could only accept any arrangement like a marionette. No one told her the reason. She only knew that she was about to leave the orphanage that she had stayed in for a long time, say goodbye to her friends, and head to an unknown planet to learn something. Black Star Super Academy. What kind of place is that? Blue Star, Black Star City. A brand new floating island was floating above the city. This floating island was the first Black Star Super Academy campus, and it had all the necessary facilities. With the help of the Galactic Construction Team, the construction speed was unimaginably fast. The productivity of the Galactic era was extremely high, and all kinds of construction printers were produced endlessly. This floating island, which was equivalent to an independent city, only took less than half a month to complete. They even spent a few days to draw the blueprint. Ever since the announcement of the opening of the academy was made, a large number of people came to the various pilot areas. A large number of galactic residents who lived nearby gathered. The first phase of the Black Star Corps was preparing to open dozens of academies in the Godora star system. Blue Star was the most eye-catching one because this was the home planet of the Black Star. Everyone knew that the Blue Star Super Academy would definitely receive the most resources. This was definitely the best Black Star Super Academy. In just over 10 days, the Blue Star Black Star Super Academy received countless applications. Luckily, Han Xiao had the foresight to build a huge floating island campus. It would not be a problem to accommodate a few million people, and it could continue to expand in the future. In order to expand its influence, the school fees were not expensive. It did not take the route of an aristocratic school and was very close to the people. However, the school did not provide accommodation. There were many residential areas in the campus that could be rented or bought. Han Xiao did not expect the school fees to cover the cost. He had specifically asked people to build a set of real estate. This was the main source of the money. Don't ask. If you did, it would be the school district. The thing that the Black Star Corps did not lack the most was teachers. A large number of supers were happy to earn extra money. They treated it as accepting the job of teaching students. There were also many ready-made super academies for reference. Blue Star was so prosperous. As long as they had money, they could recruit all kinds of employees. They did not need to worry about the source of students. Furthermore, with the name of Black Star, the administrative approval process was smooth. No one dared to stand in their way. In the galactic era, efficiency was the most important thing. Therefore, the first batch of Black Star Super Academies was ready in less than a month. Taking advantage of their popularity, they directly recruited a large number of students and started school on the spot. Riding the floating school bus all the way to the floating island, many of the freshmen on the bus were shocked. The tanned and skinny girl was one of them. Her experience during this period was like a dream. She had seen countless spectacular scenes, and all of them had shocked her soul. Country bumpkins. Another group of freshmen who came from wealthy families could not help but look down on this group of ignorant students. It's just a floating island. What's there to be surprised about? Look at all of you who have not seen the world. If you see the honorary principal in person, you will probably faint. Hearing the sarcasm of others, many of the freshmen who came from small places lowered their heads in low self-esteem. They could only hold back their exclamations and secretly glance at the scene outside the window. The tanned and skinny girl sat by the window. She wore a simple dress that could be called plain. Beside her was a Godora freshman who was dressed extravagantly. At this time, he moved away in disgust. It seemed like he was very unwilling to sit with the tanned and skinny girl. Many orphans had a sharp observation ability to detect good intentions and bad intentions. Noticing the rejection of the students beside her, the tanned and skinny girl could not help but pinch her dress, causing it to wrinkle slightly. The floating school buses arrived at the floating platform of the school one after another. The freshmen on the buses alighted, and a huge crowd quickly gathered, waiting for the teachers to lead the way. The tanned and skinny girl was not used to places with so many people. She hugged her luggage tightly and stood in the crowd, not knowing where to go. At this moment, there was a commotion not far away. The surrounding students seemed to have discovered something and looked over excitedly. That's Nero, the son of Blue Star's leader? That's right, that's him. I heard that he studied under Black Star for a few years and even became Black Star's godson. I'm so envious. I also want to call Black Star Daddy. I didn't expect such a person to study with us. It will definitely be beneficial to have a good relationship with him. It's a pity that he looks too young. If not, I would definitely pursue him. As long as I can get him, my future will be bright. Classmate, leave this to us girls. You're a man, so don't get involved. Hey, wait, he's walking over. In the eyes of ordinary students, Nero was the pride of this cohort. He was extremely short, rich, and handsome. Hearing the discussions around her, the tanned and skinny girl was a little curious. However, at this moment the crowd suddenly surged. There was no one here to protect her, and she was suddenly pushed to the ground. Her luggage fell to the ground, and the skin on her knees was scraped. Ouch, it hurts. The tanned and skinny girl subconsciously wanted to cover her head and squat down to prevent others from stepping on her. However, all of a sudden, the crowd around her seemed to have disappeared in the blink of an eye, and no one was pushing her anymore. She opened her eyes in a daze and saw a flying shuttle floating above her head, forcing the surrounding crowd to retreat. A youth with a childish face walked over with a face full of concern. He bent down and placed his hand in front of her. "My name is Nero. I saw you fall just now. Are you okay?" The tanned and skinny girl looked at Nero in a daze. In her eyes, the youth in front of her seemed to be covered in a layer of warm gold. After staring at him for a few seconds, the tanned and skinny girl woke up from her daze. She hurriedly grabbed Nero's hand and stood up to thank him with a voice as soft as a mosquito. "Thank you. I'm not injured." Nero lowered his head and saw the bloodstains on her knees. He couldn't help but say, "Aren't you injured?" "It's fine. It's just a small injury. I'll be fine in a few days. Wait, I have a healing spray." As he spoke, Nero placed his mechanical bag on the ground and took out a metal spray with the Black Star logo. He squatted down and sprayed a circle around the tanned and skinny girl's knees before nodding his head in satisfaction. After he stood up, he realized that the young girl's face was flushed red and she looked uneasy. Seeing this, Nero couldn't help but laugh. "What are you nervous about?" "Oh right, I haven't asked you yet. What's your name?" My name is Mia Morato. This is the name given to me by the orphanage director." The tanned and skinny girl nervously held onto her skirt and didn't dare to look at Nero. "Orphanage? You're an orphan?" Nero was surprised. Nero scratched his head and thought for a moment before passing the healing spray to Mia. "This is for you. If you're injured in the future, use this to heal faster." He had observed Mia's plain clothes and realized that she was an orphan. Her financial situation should not be good. Nero knew that there was a high risk of injury when learning supers, so he gave the bottle of healing spray to her. After all, it was just a small matter, and he had as many of these as he wanted. Mia mustered her courage and looked at Nero. When she met Nero's sincere gaze, her heart trembled. Like a frightened rabbit, she quickly lowered her head and carefully received the potion from Nero. "Thank you, Pa." Han Xiao, who was monitoring Nero's enrollment, covered his face with his hands. "It hurts my eyes. What the F***CK, what is this? Is this a Jacksu show? At such a young age, he can pick up girls on his own? Nero, did I ask you to do this? This puppy love must be stopped. Otherwise, my perfect mechanical sense might be replaced by a talent like female affinity. However, why does this Mia Morato sound so familiar?" Han Xiao frowned. He searched his memories and locked onto an image. It was a tall woman wearing tight black armor. Her face was originally exquisite and beautiful, but now it was disfigured. Half of her face had become mechanical prosthetics, and one of her mechanical eyeballs was emitting a strange red light, making her look hideous and hideous. Her expression was cold, and she held a black metal spear in her hands. Drops of blood dripped down from the tip of the spear, and she gave off a murderous aura. Conqueror Mia Morato, Calamity Grade Pugilist, once a Beyond Grade A seed. She lost part of her limbs in a battle and cut off her path to becoming a Beyond Grade A super. She was one of the followers of Hela in my previous life. Han Xiao blinked his eyes. It was difficult for him to connect the image of that female calamity in his memories with this weak and tanned girl. Rubbing his temples, Han Xiao looked at Nero with a complicated expression. This was truly the treatment of a main character. He had casually met a little friend with great potential. The advanced luck glow is terrifying. I'm impressed. When will I get one too? I'll trample on the goddess of luck 100 times. Not wanting to look at Nero's scene, Han Xiao helplessly turned off the surveillance camera and looked at the modification workbench, not far away. After a month of hard work, not only had the mechanical soldiers in his inventory been upgraded, but the Mech Legion had also expanded to a scale of close to 20 million. The prototype of the secondary dimension factory had also been created. All that was left was to refine it and turn it into a military factory in the secondary dimension. My efficiency is still as high as ever. Looking at the neat Mech Legion, Han Xiao chuckled with satisfaction. DDD. Right at this moment, Han Xiao's quantum network vision suddenly sounded an alarm. The next moment, Philip suddenly appeared and hugged Han Xiao's finger. His face was pale, and white noise kept appearing on his virtual image, as if he had not been in contact with Han Xiao. A large amount of abnormal data has been detected. It's breaking through my core firewall. Daddy, save me, hum. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.